My daughter's got a choir concert tomorrow. I've asked them to specifically move that so it would not affect this meeting. And now you know it's snowing.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It was snowing in Harrisonburg.
They called for, what did Brian send me? Is it Sunday?
No,
Yeah.
it's like oil prices drop sharply. Rain down.
Yeah, that's
It's
exactly
so boo,
right.
boo, boo.
Man, more punctual than
Maybe
anybody.
rock
Good
you.
Yeah,
Lord.
yeah. I saw it the other day for 287.
What am I missing? It's on
Where's Nate? Jim, good to see you.
unless they're in support of it.
What? Tremendous. Yeah, well, yeah. What does Bill and Wendy think of you? No, well, I think that's to be free will of you, Jim.
Hey, Jonathan, is there water in the refrigerator in the kitchen?
I'll go look. If it not, I can bring you just a cup filled if you.
Make sure it's like a real small cup though, like a real small cup. Yeah.
Did I do that?
Hello?
Oh, yeah, I don't know, yes. Thought of that in years.
That's not lights.
Oh, there you go.
How are you?
Nathan's sick. Yeah, he's sick.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. If you would, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, to be followed by a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we do have a quorum of the Planning Commission present. All members are present except for Nathan Cohen. We need to take a quick look at the agenda, see if we need to make any additions or changes. Since there appear to be only 2 items.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as it is.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, need to review the minutes from the November 15th workshop meeting. Okay, does anyone see any corrections or changes to be made?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Very good. We do have two cases tonight for the public hearings. As always, we will read the description of the case, have any further comments from Ligon. Following that, the applicants will have a chance to address the Planning Commission. Following that, if there is public comment, there will be time for that. And it appears tonight we will probably have to ask that you please observe about a 3-minute or so time period for the comments. All right, case number SU-12-23-18. Mr. Ciriaco Martinez has applied for a special use permit to convert an existing structure permitted as an assisted living facility to a two-family dwelling, a duplex. The subject 4.2-acre lot is zoned A1 agriculture, and in the A1 zoning district, both an assisted living facility and two-family dwelling are allowable by special use permit. Constructed in 1974, the structure contains roughly 3,800 square feet of living area above grade with 6 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms, and roughly 2,900 square feet of living area below grade with 6 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms. Both the above and below grade living areas contain a kitchen, living, and a dining area. If the SUP is approved, the structure would be required to obtain a change of use permit and a new certificate of occupancy from the county's building official. The excuse me. The subject property contains a postal address of 5289 Ridgeview Road, Riva, Virginia, and is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 24-37C. All right, Ligon, anything to add?
I know we've looked at this for several months now. It just came to our attention a few months ago. This sort of, as it started, once the building official found out that this is institutional use, and we asked that last meeting, this is to convert it to a residential use from the building code perspective. So that's sort of what precipitated this. The former, as the ad says, it was a assisted living facility. I think it had up to 27 residents. There's an upper level and a lower level. As you can see in the packet, there are two very basic conditions. This would be transferable, and the second one would be that the applicant, and they are aware, would come into the building office within a couple weeks and get the process moving to do that change of use. And again, special use for a two-family dwelling / duplex is allowable in ag district. So we would start that process. Generally speaking, talking to our building official, institutional use is a much higher use, a higher standard. You have sprinklers, so really don't anticipate there's a lot that will have to be done from a building side of things, but we're also taking care of from the zoning perspective to get this right for the owners. I did get one email from an adjacent property owner, has no issue with this at all. I think at the last meeting, one of the questions was about the septic system. I did call Mr. Hogg, and he said there are two systems. And as you can see in his letter, everything seems to have been maintained properly and is working. Took the cap off, he looked at everything. I'm not sure, I think sometimes they'll put a camera in the lines as part of their inspection, and everything looks to be functioned properly. Two independent systems. I talked to Emily Bourdon from the health department as well. So on that side, I think we're in good shape. They've done everything, just if this is approved, we'll just move forward with getting them right with the building official.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Ligon? Mike, yeah.
I'm just curious, Ligon, is there a particular code that says that in the regular building code, this is going to be transferred over to, that you have to have for 12 bedrooms, a certain amount of bathrooms? Because it seemed like a lot. I'm just asking.
Yeah,
12 bedrooms and 3 baths.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if there's a standard. It obviously met the code for institutional. It doesn't seem like a lot, but.
It does seem like a lot.
So, Jamie's sort of conversation with our building official was it's, a few things would have to be done, but he doesn't anticipate it will be a lot of changes have to take place in the interior.
Okay, any other question for legal?
I have one.
Yes.
Looking at, since we'll be a duplex, will there be two separate properties?
Well, it's one, I mean, it's one building, obviously, 2 units, or like 2 apartments. I mean, in theory, if the owners, this wouldn't include the county, but if they wanted to condominium it and sell it as 2 properties, I mean, would be nothing stopping them to doing that, but that create an agreement. But I don't think that's in any way being considered. But in theory, it could be, and that'd be outside of the county sort of auspice, or whatever you want to call it, control or whatever.
Any other questions? Yes, Ray.
Okay, I remind, the last time we talked about this was a month ago now for me. One of the things that I think about when I'm looking at this as a duplex and not as an assisted living, it was called 8 bedrooms per unit, per floor. It doesn't have to be that way as a duplex anymore, it's a house. Am I correct?
It's a 2-family dwelling.
It's a dwelling. I have rooms in my house, I could call them bedrooms or not, I could call them an office, I could call it a whatever. I mean, we keep referring to this as bedrooms and trying to make, I don't think that is a,
Well, the building code has specific criteria for what constitutes a bedroom, and I think that those rooms,
but wouldn't bedroom be what you're using it for?
I mean, you can use it as a bedroom, but technically it could be sometimes they call them a study. I think
Well,
it needs,
sure.
I think it needs.
Are we getting hung up on that terminology when it's really, I don't understand why that's such a big deal about the number of bedrooms. It was that way
Well,
when it was assisted
The
living. That's a
bedrooms is
given.
the bedrooms, I don't mean to cut you off, but the bedrooms are gonna also control the drain field, the size of the
Well,
drain
yes, I
field.
understand
Right. So
that.
there
We've
is a
got more
con-
than adequate drain field, if they were all to be called bedrooms. Right? Don't we have enough?
I mean, I think we're calling the bedrooms which are the bedrooms. I mean, they meet the criteria for, I think I think it has to be a closet and a window.
I
mean,
don't get it.
So,
Am I the only one that doesn't understand why we're getting hung on the number of bedrooms for our duplex?
So if a room doesn't have a closet in it by code, Ligon, is it not considered a bedroom?
I believe that's correct, but I'm not, that's really a Jamie question.
So all
but-
of these bedrooms have closets in them?
Yeah. I believe they all qualify as bedrooms. I mean, I saw the interior layout and saw a diagram, so. Yeah, anybody here? Chet?
Old 123-year-old house, and none of them, it's a 4-square old house, over 3,000 square feet, and none of them has a closet.
Yeah, that was before we even had a building code. So it doesn't, there's exceptions to it, especially with older houses. There are exceptions that might meet today's definition, but they still function as a bedroom. So I wouldn't get too far out on thinking too hard about it, but I mean.
Following up on Fay, just to kind of maybe clarify, is there any problem in the building code with a house having 6 bedrooms on one floor?
No.
The only thing that the bedrooms control, as you said, the amount of drain field required.
That's right, size of the drain field, right.
And this one is oversized even for that. Okay. Any other question for Ligon? Yes, Mike?
Did we have some discussion last meeting about the SUP being part of the duplex, but it was a limited? I think was that brought up that there was discussion about duplex and it was limited?
There's 2 things in the code, or in the ordinances rather. One is limited, which means essentially that's sort of pre-existing. The other one is that it's just allowed by special use permit, which is what we're contemplating tonight. So if it's by special use permit, that would, because the limited doesn't apply for this property. based on when it was built. Does that answer your question?
I think so, yeah. Thank you. Okay, any other question for Ligon or any other comment? All right, does the applicant wish to address the planning commission about this?
Yeah, they have a trust.
All right, if you would, go to the microphone, or he'll take the microphone to you, that'll work better, and identify yourself.
If, excuse me.
Sorry, Mr. Coach. Just make sure it's easier on the public, those who are keeping the minutes. Thank you so much. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right, and again, if you would, just please identify yourself and then go ahead and make your comments.
Okay, so he's the applicant, the owner of the house, and I'm just translating.
Name, please. Just state your name. This
Oh,
is all-
my name is Antoinette Alpaca,
All right, his name is,
and his name is?
Gerardo Pineda.
okay, thank you.
He would like to know if it's not necessary to make a change, if the permit, it's covered with all the people that are in the house. Yes.
Yeah, it does, yeah, yeah.
So, sí, sí, sí. So when they came here and asked if the permit was, if the permit covered all the persons that are living in the house, and they said that they didn't have the permit and it was commercial. So we asked for the permit, and they sent him an email, and he printed out. And they told us that the permit was already made. So he's not understanding that well,
Yeah,
what's going on.
I think the thing here was that he was led to believe that this was a multifamily dwelling when you purchased it. I mean, right.
So why do you guys tell him that the permit wasn't there at first?
Yeah, that was, he came the other day, wanted to know if he could get the permit to do the change of use. I just told him he had to wait until this was done. It's what I see,
He
right.
has the paper or no, he's gonna bring it.
Yeah.
So here's the notification that he received.
Right, that was the original notification that was sent to you. Right, right. It-
Would you
Yeah,
like to see it?
I know exactly what it's.
Él sabe qué es
Right.
exactamente eso. Yeah, but here says that there was no permit.
You're gonna get,
Is that it?
yeah, you're gonna get that permit if we get
Ahora
the,
ese permiso.
yeah. It's-
So he has to get the per. he
Right,
has to get the
after
permit.
this is approved,
Después
hopefully
de que
approved.
sea aprobado. So if he has the permit right now, it's not necessary.
Yeah, that was I think that was
Just
Jamie's
asking.
notice of violation, I mean, notice to need to be changed. But right now, like I said, you just need to wait until after this. Right, right. Right.
He just wanted to make sure.
Right.
Okay, he wanted to make sure that you guys don't change the permit after you guys made a decision. don't know if.
Yeah, I'll talk to you after the meeting. Después la encuentra. Yeah, there was just a lot of confusion on their part when they bought it, in trying to explain because they were led to believe that it was allowable for that, so.
Okay, he's been looking at the papers that he has right now, and there is a form that he didn't fill out. And
Right.
it says that he filled it out.
Yeah.
So.
We'll, after this meeting, and if everything goes well, we'll work on the building part, right? Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Basically, this is a two-part process. The first part is what we're doing tonight. Following that, you can do the change of
Right,
purpose or whatever it's
Right.
called. Yeah,
change of use, right.
change of use, yes. Okay, any public comment on this case? Yes. Okay, sure. Okay.
On the 4-2-18, two-family dwelling duplex limited, explain to me exactly how you determine limit.
Sure. Give me 1 second. So 42-18 talks about two-family dwelling, and then in parentheses duplex, and then in parentheses limited. So 529 allows by special use permit for a two-family dwelling duplex in residential limited. And then Article 20 is where the definitions are for the zoning ordinance. 20-60 defines a duplex, and then 20-60 defines a dwelling two-family. And then 68 alpha is dwelling two-family limited. So you've got the two parentheses duplex, and then you've got limited. So it's essentially, it's an or between. It can either be a two-family dwelling duplex, or it can be a two-family dwelling limited, which is allowed.
Okay, so let me ask a question. Let's say that I want to take my house and I want to come in here and ask for a special use permit. And I want to make my upstairs one duplex, my downstairs another duplex, and have 16 people in my house. That's allowed.
Well, I don't mean to cut you, up, but you would have to meet the building code to, you have to have proper egress. One, you have to get a special use permit. Two, this house was built, this but structure was built for institutional. So it has all the egress, it has, in this case, it even has fire suppression system in it. You wouldn't need that, but you would have to, kind of a regular dwelling, single-family dwelling. Some people do it with basements. You can do it with a basement. Now, I know like in the ceilings, you have to put certain fire-rated, separation, which this does have. So it could be done, but you might just find out you'd be easier to build a new house, so, but.
But if I have excess from my basement, excess from upstairs, and I comply with all the building codes, I could come in here and I could have 16 people at my house.
Assuming that you're A1 and that you come in here and apply for a special use permit.
So everybody in here that
Yeah,
wanted to do that, would do that.
I've heard Jamie talk about occupancy, as far as family occupancy. The building code for residential doesn't really give a hard number, this is how many people. So you get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and if you have a family of 12, or you've got, stepchildren, the code, and I've heard him say it several times, doesn't really put a limit on the number of people in a dwelling. These are two separate families, one upstairs, one downstairs. I mean, it's 15 people. I mean, looking at the bedrooms, looking at the way this was used as a nursing, assisted living facility, it obviously is less people than, what it was designed for. So this is kind of a unique case. So I wouldn't say that every residential structure in the county can be converted, but this is one that's definitely a little unique.
But it could be converted and it could happen. What I'm trying to determine, are we setting a precedence where other people can go out and look at doing this?
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly.
This mic is not working, so it's not working. So I'm gonna speak louder, or share this one, be fine. Mr. Elliott, I'm looking at the definition right now in our ordinance for, and it's found in 20-68A, dwelling two-family limited. And it also refers you to dwelling units, which is a definition 20-69. The unit itself, or it has dwelling unit is one or more rooms in a structure designed to provide living and sleeping accommodations for an individual or a family. What we don't have defined is number of people in a family. However, when you go back, as far as splitting off a basement and an upstairs into 4 separate dwelling units, here's where I think it's important in 20-68A. That definition is for dwelling two-family parentheses limited. That reads, a single-family dwelling existing on or before March 29, 1974, and arranged or designed to be occupied by 2 families. Said existing single-family dwelling shall have only 2 dwelling units. So that dwelling unit is designed for an individual or a family. So even in this case, you can only have 2 dwelling units, whether it's in one single floor level, or in this case where you have a basement as a dwelling unit and the upstairs as a dwelling unit. But you could not, let's say, put that as a cube and get 2 dwelling units in the basement and 2 upstairs. So you can only have 2 dwelling units in the two-family dwelling limited as defined. I don't know if I answered your question. I was just trying to clarify.
And Mr. Weekly, I'm not looking at having 4 units in there. I'm looking at having a unit in my basement, and I move a family in there, and the family says, this is my brother, this is my sister, this is my uncle, this is my aunt, and now the whole basement has got 15 or 16 people in it.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
The only way the county can limit it in college towns sometimes do this, and Harrisonburg, is to actually put we don't have this in our code as far as I'm aware, is a definition for family. It is well within the right of a locality to limit non-related people up to 2. And like I said, I know Harrisonburg does it. We haven't had an issue with it. These applicants are related, so they wouldn't fall in that. If it's something that is a problem, I mean, again, kind of usually is an ordinance that you see in communities with universities, colleges, because there's an interest in some districts to limit the number of non-related people. If that's something the county wants to look into, that's fine, but I don't think it would remain here.
Any other question for Ligon then?
Ligon, I think of what you just cited was probably 20-75, if you've got that out. That pretty much addresses what you just said.
Family?
Yeah.
Okay, any other comment on that? All right, very well. Back to the public comment. Any public comment on this case? Any public comment? Okay. In that case, any further discussion from the Planning Commission? Comments or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I want to say that I feel strongly that there's going to be a lot more than 2 families in this dwelling. I think these rooms are going to be rented out, and for that reason, I can't support this.
Any other comment or discussion? All right, do you wish to make public comment, ma'am? No, I'm asking, do you want to make a public comment? In that case, would you go to the podium and identify yourself, please?
My name is Donna Walker, and I'm a neighbor. My grandparents.
Is your microphone on?
It's the green light's on.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, that's,
I'm a neighbor to this property. My grandparents bought the farm, and the people that they bought it from carved off this property to make a nursing home. So I'm not familiar with the big building that we're talking about. I'm familiar with the residential building. But I just want to say that there's something wonderful about large families. There's something that's happened in our country where we've just become such islands, and we're so isolated and so separated, And I just think it warms my heart when I come down and get ready to turn up my driveway to go up to the farmhouse and the school bus, and here comes this line of kids. And they're happy, and they're healthy, and these are wonderful people. My dogs have come down. I have a dog and 2 dogs, and one came down and killed one of their beautiful roosters. And I was so upset, and I wanted to pay for it, and they said, absolutely not. It happens. But this is a family. It's family. I can tell you that it's family. We used to have large Catholic families. We used to have large Protestant families. There's nothing wrong with a lot of people in a house, and I think it'd be good if we learned how to live together more simply and easily. And I'm happy to have the neighbors that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment?
Hello, my name is Heidi Vaca. I am neighbor of my friends. I live 2 years with my neighbors. I want to ask you, what is the real problem with the house? Because when you buy a house, you talk with a realtor, right? And you ask or you say what you need, a big house or a small house. In my case, I live with my parents, my husband, my daughter, and I have a big house. And my question is, what is the problem with this house and the brothers?
Antoinette, that's my mom. And I also wanted to talk about, like, there's nothing wrong with living with your aunts or brothers. Like, we're Latinos and we come from big families. And I don't think, like, the comment that the Sarah made, I'm not trying to be rude, or like they're gonna be renting out in other rooms. I don't find it, no, it's just no. It doesn't sound good. I mean, we're Latinos, we come from big families, as you guys know, and I don't think your answer was appropriate. I didn't like it as well. Sorry, Sarah, but like, we have to respect that. We come from big families, and we don't come for like, we don't do it to rent out rooms and stuff. We don't know what's the real problem. I mean, they're a family, and so we would like to know, like, I don't know, I feel like they're making a big deal.
Somos emigrantes,
We're immigrants, and
tratamos de cumplir las leyes.
we try to do the things right.
Agradecemos estar en Estados Unidos.
We think we're thanked to be in the United States,
Tratamos
and we try
de trabajar,
to work,
pagar nuestras taxas,
pay our taxes,
no molestar a los vecinos.
and not to bother our neighbors,
Sobre todo,
and overall,
cumplir con las leyes de Estados Unidos.
and
Seguir las leyes.
and follow the rules, the laws. Sorry,
That's it.
that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Since we seem to be back on public comment, any other public comment at this time? Okay, again, any further discussion or comments from the Planning Commission? If not, can I hear a motion on this case? Please.
I'll make the motion that we recommend, send to the board, the recommendation for SU-12-23-18 to be approved.
Okay, motion has been made for approval. Any seconded? Let's do a show of hands. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, so case number SU-12-23-18 will be recommended to the Board of Supervisors for approval. Thank you. All right, next case is case number SU-12-23-19. Ms. Patricia Korowski, the President of the Board of Directors for the Homeless Animals Rescue Team Incorporated, abbreviated HART, has applied for a special use permit to construct and operate an animal rescue kennel on an A1 agriculture zoned lot. In the A1 zoning district, a kennel is allowed by special use permit. The subject lot is 35 acres and contains 2 existing dwellings. The proposed kennel structure would not exceed 10,000 square feet of area under roof and house or shelter no more than 50 dogs and 25 cats at any given time. If approved, a temporary kennel would be established utilizing the lot's existing structures or potentially temporary structures in accordance with the Uniform Statewide Building Code, known as USBC. In addition, the SUP would run with the applicant and therefore be non-transferable or assignable. The subject property contains 2 postal addresses, 18 and 310 Old Sparks Roads, Culpeper, Virginia, and is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 43-5. All right, Ligon, anything to add? I know you have a group of conditions that you've already worked out.
Yes, so I was in communication with Ms. Kurowski probably, I think maybe in September. We had a discussion about this proposal. Just remind people that in the A1 Ag District, a kennel, as defined, we have a pretty general definition of kennel in the Madison County zoning ordinance, is a special use. So in ag, you can do certain things by right. You can farm, you can build a house, and then there are certain things that you require special approval, meaning that the board would have to approve your request. So we talked about the kennel, gave me a background in HART, the Homeless Animal Rescue Team, what they do. Generally we think of kennels, at least I think the ones that are in Madison. I haven't. This is my first time ever sort of interfacing with a kennel use in my career. But generally think of dog breeders, people who are commercially, breeding dogs, and you have maybe some clients that come to the site, back and forth, and visits. This is somewhat akin to that, but obviously there's not dog breeding. They're bringing rescue dogs to the site, finding homes for them, and maybe it doesn't sound as if, and discussing with Ms. Kurowski that people are just going to randomly come to the site looking for an animal. They'll do most of their business sort of online and have some staff volunteer shuttle animals back and forth. So we've got a good understanding what they're doing, and sort of got to understanding the organization. We did have a development committee meeting, went over the proposal. Everyone felt like we were getting a lot of good information, understanding what they were doing, and the development committee recommended this be moved on to the Plan Commission, where we reviewed it for the last 2 months, and now this is the hearing, which are the Plan Commission and the Board of Supervisors. Looking at it, you can see I've worked with the applicant. I've talked to neighbors. I think the hardest part of my job is to look at something that's new to a neighborhood that will change a neighborhood. And understanding and being empathetic to the concerns. My research and talking to people, HART's a very reputable, good, well-funded organization that does a lot of great work. I've also talked to neighbors, and one in particular, and there are a couple that have expressed support, and I think there's a letter in the packet. But by far, the most of the conversations I've had are people that are opposed to this for the very reason that it is a new facility. I think the biggest concern, probably two-tiered, would be the potential barking and then traffic going to the site, which I'll address in a second. But kind of back to my point, it's hard. I look at something, try to look at from a planning perspective, traffic, what's the physical use, considering that you couldn't do agricultural things in a parcel that potentially could have more impact, but that's not being proposed. So I don't think it's really something that you can say, hey, look, they could put cows on this and, wouldn't be any conversations because they're not proposing to do that. They are proposing a kennel, which again needs a special use. So I'm very sensitive and I had very good conversations and I've tried my best to sort of, in the conditions, find a mechanisms that the county could control this, could regulate this if some of those potentially barking becomes an issue. The one thing that just lament a little bit with the applicant, and I've told neighbors this, is that, had I maybe been in touch with them before they purchased the property, I would have been very clear that, you kind of buyer beware when you have, you take title to a property, you purchase a property, then you need that special use permit. That's subject to the review of this commission, the board, and I really believe this is a proposal, even though I have recommended approval, I think it is a proposal that two people, and I kind of say this is my mantra, rational people that care a lot for the community, could read all the data and information and could come to two very different conclusions on how they might, ultimately vote on this. So I do fully believe that. The two conditions that I would point out that I think number 11, you look in your packet, talking about the ability for the county, if we do have complaints on barking, I mean, we do have a time limit on when the dogs can be outside from the morning 7 to, I believe, 8. That's a pretty good chunk. But if there are sort of rogue barking, if it's disruptive, and we can, if I'm on staff and that can be proven, then, I mean, it's potential, the way this condition's written, that they have to go indoors, maybe limit the amount of time they're outdoor from 9 to 1. I don't know what that may be. I hope that's not the case. I do believe that Hart's going to be very sensitive to this, and they've made this very clear to me. So I think that's one condition that we have a lot of enforcement mechanisms. The second one, as far as the temp facility, you can see we have a 2-year window, if this is approved, to build that permanent facility. And I kind of do just to point out that we have, through negotiations, moved that potential facility. We were looking at, just look up here, we're looking right here at first, so we're kind of more in this area, and that was to try to limit that, as far as the proximity to, which really probably is one of the most affected neighbor. So I do appreciate that, but realize that it's still, you're still probably 1,500 feet or so from this particular, the property here. One thing also to consider is item number 10 is on the temp facility. I have thought about this and thought maybe if, the number of dogs for a temp facility could be reduced. As it's written, they would be able to do the 50. I mean, the temp facilities have to be permitted. Maybe, something to think about is to go down to the 15 or 20 dogs while it's temp, and then go to the 50 once the permanent. That's just one thought. As far as traffic goes, and I'm sort of into on this point, because if you have any questions for me, happy to answer, but I did look at some transportation studies. Transportation, traffic it's a little bit, always has a little bit of voodoo in there. It's hard to, no two facilities are totally the same. The facilities that I looked at had some studies for, were in different parts of the country, and most of them are kennels were board, you board animals, you leave them for a night, you come pick them up a couple days later, or you leave them for a few nights, the other kind of pet resorts. But one study was a 10,000 square foot facility, which this one is roughly would be, open to the public, generated 60 trips a day. And there was another study, another state, that was a little smaller but had 40 trips a day. Now, I don't think that this facility is different because it's a rescue. You have staff. You don't have clients coming to the site. I do think the number I used last time, used my best guess, is probably 15 to 30 maybe, and Hart can mention this, but really probably on the lower end. I'm just thinking about caring for maybe 75 pets if you have vet visits or staff coming, animals being shuttled out. I think that 15 to 30 is a good number. which I just sort of tend to lean more toward the lower end, knowing that you're not open to the public, like maybe like a pet resort or a boarding kennel. So other than that, look at the conditions. I mean, these are obviously subject to change. I tried my best to try to answer the concerns that were made to me, realizing that some of the concerns are just, they just don't want it there, and I totally am sympathetic for that as well. So any questions for me at this point?
Okay, any questions for Megan?
I could have a whole conversation about this. I'm
Okay,
trying to
we're getting
cut
ready
it-
to.
I know, I would like to try to cut it short as I can about it. As much as I love dogs, like I said, that's one of my passions in my life is animals. I personally would like to see, if this were to go through, that they would not start out at 50, that we would reduce that number to something that might be a little more manageable as a trial basis, and we went from a lower number and said, okay, if this works, that we might be able to exceed that amount at some particular point. I know what would go along with that would be if, when the construction of the building would be built, that you would probably want to build it all out at one time, but it'd be nice if you could build it to where it would be a lower number and allow an addition to it to go along with it later. Now, I walked the property with one of the neighbors, walked it pretty thoroughly. I don't really think that the location of the temporary is a good location. It sits up on the hill. I think the noise from the dogs are going to carry pretty good from up there on top of that. I think that the location of the permanent structure down, I think it's possibly more down in the hole than the other one. It's down lower than the older house, but I don't think personally that it's big enough for a 10,000 square foot structure. I don't know if they've had anybody look at that. It's on quite a slope behind the house. There's a Civil War building there that I've been told that can't be touched. It's on the side of where the permanent structure is from that old house. So when you get behind, when you get down there, that's right. If you go to below that, it's really quite a slope with a spring running below that. I don't know that I would like to know if they've had someone take a look and say that they can put a 10,000 square foot structure there. And if they can't put it there and we approve this, are they going to say, okay, we're going to have to put this somewhere else, and where would that be? And hope that along with the site plan that we're going to have to approve, is that going to change that location? And I would have to think, what was that item number 12, I believe, or 14? Without looking at it, that we're going to have to approve the site plan for this before, and if we approve that, is that going to be going along with moving the location of the permanent structure?
Well, we try to write it that if this, so this is where, and this is 100 by 100, this middle circle, so that kind of gives you an idea. And let's just say it had to shift up here. I mean, and try to make it very clear that some shift in this is allowable if it were to move. But if it goes over here, obviously, that's significantly different. I mean, so that there's been a site plan, and, we can determine if this is approved, that if it's significant enough that we'd have to have another special use. But I think moving this, if this was to be here, but being here, that would be, I think, a modest move. But back to your first question was about reducing the number. I mean, I asked that. I said, is this a deal breaker as far as the permanent facility, that we try to work our way up? And I know Patricia will talk, and she can explain that, but with the investment that it takes, it's not really something that they can do. It needs to, if they're approved the SUP, then I need to, once they get that permanent, it needs to be 50 and 25 in order to make this work, to be financially feasible, what they paid for the facility, what they're going to have to, pay for the land facility. So I did think of that. But at that point, and again, she can talk about that. But.
Well, so then that goes back to the building what I'd said initially was building this and having this done in the 2-year plan. I mean, that's going to be quite an undertaking, I think. And once again, if we could start out a little bit smaller and work our way into that and give them a little bit more time to think about it and see how that goes. But if they've got it figured out and they need 50 and there's,
I mean, I just proposed the temporary maybe being smaller, but I don't want to throw too many curveballs. That was the only one thing that I thought about.
and what's the size of the temporary? How many is that going to house?
As it's written now, they could have I mean, the way I read it, and the way I was intending it was that they could have the 50, but
That's
that
what
might
I
be
was
something.
reading.
But that was something that again, county has latitude on this to impose,
And that would be, decided now.
if that's your pleasure,
I
right?
mean,
They
I
made the
mean, we
temporary.
could say for a temporary building, we could allow maybe a number. Somebody
Right.
come up with a number of a lower reduction and say for a temporary until the
And I think
permanent structure is.
we're just worried about dogs. It's, the cats aren't really. the
I understand.
issue. Right.
Any further question or comment?
Well, look, I have a question. I know when they build a permanent structure, there's gonna be a trough put in, and that trough will catch all the urine and wash down from the kennel or whatever, and all that'll go into a drain field system to where we don't have to worry about it leaching out on people's property. So are they gonna spend the money to put that system in and put the drain field and everything in for this temporary thing? Or this temporary thing, we just gonna let it go where it goes?
Well, the solid would be removed. I mean, I'll let Patricia can talk about this, but as far as the non-solid, I don't think there's any, I mean, to me, I look at it, and I did talk to a soil person about this. I mean, as far as that many animals, I mean, again, agriculture land with larger animals, it's, I don't think there's any concern about it infiltrating or anything like that and causing any kind of, any issues with groundwater. I mean, it's just not that, volume is just not that great. So I don't see it as a really an issue as far as.
So if we're doing it for a permanent, why wouldn't we do it for a temporary?
Well, the temporary facility is just going to be very, I mean, they have to meet the building code. They're just going to be very, they're going to be pretty basic. In order to install some sort of a drain system, and I mean, it's just, it's not really, to me, it just wouldn't really be practical.
Well, if it's practical for a full-time, if they're gonna build a full-time kennel, and it's practical for that, I'm not understanding why it's not practical for a part-time, because you've got the same situation, whether it's full-time or part-time.
I just don't think that the amount of volume of non-solids urine is anywhere to where it's any kind of issue. And maybe someone else knows something different, but I mean, at least from talking to soil people that I talk to, it doesn't really seem to be a grave concern. No more than any agricultural use, that's by right, for sure. And especially if we reduce the number that's allowable temporary, but even if it was 50, I don't think it's really a.
Well, again, I'm just having trouble understanding the difference between a building that's completed and something that we're doing part-time, because it's the same two items.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah,
Jim, you have-
Yes, 3 comments, actually. One of them probably doesn't have a whole lot to do with zoning. I cannot imagine not living in the company of a dog. But as such, they need a lot of human contact, and I don't see, from the operational standpoint of what I understand is going to be happening, that there will be that much human contact with these animals on a daily basis other than morning and evening feedings. That doesn't have anything to do with zoning. My primary concern is the noise. I know that if a butterfly takes flight in Honduras, a neighbor's Great Pyrenees feels obligated to let the world know about it. My dog then feels obligated to let the Great Pyrenees at the next farm know about it. And when we had the illegal kennel about a click away from us, then they were all in course and didn't know when to cut off. So there's that. The other thing is I'm sure Jonathan remembers painfully, about 15 years ago, there was a proffering of an ordinance for barking dogs, and we know where that went. Sagely nods. And I don't want us to get into the situation where we're going to have to be there again. But to monitor this, I think there's a whole lot of wishy room in here. Are we going to have to buy audiometers to see whether or not the noise is too loud and how loud is too loud? And, you know, I've got a real problem with it, the noise for the neighbors. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comment, question for Liga? Yes, Ray?
I would just say, as far as the human contact, well, I wouldn't mind getting into a little bit of just a quick explanation early, before I say this, but I'll say this right now in reaction to Mr. Smith. As far as human contact, these are homeless dogs that they're rescuing. Human contact, some of them may not have ever happened. They're not like our pets that we treat like family. So having seen and having known people, many people who have rescued cats and dogs from various facilities, they've all worked out pretty well. And so I know it can happen, and I think dogs are the ones that need the human, they need that interaction, and they feel safe, and it doesn't take them long to know if they're treated well. Cats, on the other hand, like to have the safe environment that they live in. I think that's what studies say. That they're concerned because cats, can be rather standoffish, but they like to know that they're safe in their environment. The dogs, on the other hand, like to feel safe with people and no harm. I just don't worry too much about that, and I would hope that their turnover rate of rescuing these dogs from various places and strays would not allow them to stay too long, and they do. Now, that gets back to how they get placed. I understood at an original meeting, I think, that this is done online, like most of them. Am I correct? They're online. I see them all the time. If anybody knows if you're part of my Facebook friends, probably 75% of my shares are about lost animals, stray animals, animals at maybe as many as 10 rescues, animal shelters, whatever. Because I believe in finding these animals homes and not being continue to be abused. I don't even like the idea that they continue to be brought in this world. That's another big thing that I'm big about, and I'm not going to get into all that with my cats that I had. But anyway, it's just a concept that we don't really necessarily understand and know about. So it's a matter of whether you love these animals or not, or and you want to see that they have good homes. I look at it that way, and they're trying to do that. But I think all of the actual transport and the arrangement and the payment fees for vetting and all that's done online and wouldn't take place at the facility. So as far as the traffic, I guess I'm getting to that. I don't think the traffic is going to be, they get taken just like our pets do from our animal shelters. They go to PetSmart, they go wherever. And our shelter will transport animals if they need to. And I know people that have adopted animals as far away as other states and flown them in. I mean, if you've got a special animal, that's what they do. So some people really go, to the extreme on this, which is, if you can do that, that's fine. Anyway, I want to be sure that we're talking and we're worried about the right things. And everything is a balance. There are always pros and cons. You've got this good thing, you've got this not so good thing. And that's kind of the way I've done my life for a while, and sometimes I go the wrong way. But we have to look at the balance. Nothing is going to stay the same. Nothing's going to stay the same. And I had a 200-acre farm, and now I don't because of the way it was sold off. The thing is, we do have changes, and we are slow to change. We don't like change. I don't know what else to say, and I don't even know right now how it, if it goes either way, how upset I'll be. But I do think that these people, if we trust these people to do what they say as a rescue, that's the first thing. I do like the idea of the county having some monitors on this, only because it's new to us. It's new. We don't know about this 50-dog thing. We don't know about other things that are proposed. So I understand totally your concern. But I like the idea that we built in some control over the noise, control over other things. And I think that's true with anything we make, any decision we make here and back there, is if people don't live up to what they say they're going to do, we ought to have a mechanism to fix it, one way or the other. I don't know necessarily how that would be. But we always ought to have that option. And if we don't, we're going to make some mistakes, and we're going to get ourselves in trouble. So we know what the potential problems might be, and we know how the neighbors feel. So I don't know. I like most of what I'm reading about the controls. I would like to see it smaller at the beginning, just so everybody gets used to it. And I imagine these folks could probably manage that, especially until they get their permanent building, which will be soundproofed and all that. I guess that's my thoughts.
Okay. Any other comment or question?
Yeah, Ligon, as far as that item number 12 of the site plan, are we going to be able to identify that we would want, like our animal control does down here, have a fence around it in case a dog were to get out for safety reasons? Are we going to be able to?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't put it in the conditions, but I believe they're planning on even doing a fence around the whole.
It's not on here.
It's
So
not on
do
there,
we need
but-
to?
right.
Do we need to make that now, or are we going to be able to do that
I
at a
mean,
site plan ordinance?
we
Or are we
could-
not going to worry about it?
I mean, we can do it either way, but I think that's something they had planned on
I
doing.
mean, if we don't do it now, can we do that later?
I believe so, yes. Yes. That's a very
Okay.
reasonable request, but we might as well just do it now.
And then one more thing I'd like for us to be thinking about, as I'm sure as people are going to be talking, is that we all think about that size again. You know, that we do start out smaller and work our way into this. I mean, it's not like, once again, I'm all about it. I hope it goes through, I really do, but I hope it goes through smaller for it to be starting out. And but if we start out smaller, I don't like the time frame, once again, of having the permanent structure being built. If we do start smaller, I mean, they might want to ease into it a little bit more. That would be my thought.
Okay. Any other comment, question? All right. In that case, would the applicant please go to the microphone and identify yourself? And I think you've got plenty of things to talk about.
Yes, as most of you know, I'm Patricia Karowski, the president of the board of directors. Okay, a whole bunch of things. First of all, the temporary kennel, our current plan is to build a 15-run kennel. We don't have lots of extra money, so we're taking an existing barn and doing the best we can. I have a contractor all ready to go. I have a meeting on Monday to talk to the consultants to make sure we do the best job we can with what we have. We're gonna soundproof that barn. We're gonna put 15 runs in it. So we're just gonna start off with 15 dogs. We're going to, the soundproofing, it's they insulate it and you put this metal with little holes in it. That should dampen the sounds from within the barn. The floor's gotta be flat and so that we can clean it. And yes, the urine from the temporary kennel will just be washed off into the grass, but I think 15 dogs is equivalent to maybe 1 cow's worth of pee. I mean, the solid waste we will scoop and okay, 2 cows maybe? I don't think the urine is gonna be a big problem. So we'll start with that. Now, the plan always was, and I think Ligon and I were having maybe some communication problems, but our plan is to have a fence around the facility. We are, 4 or 5 of the dogs I've adopted from Hart were ones that escaped from their homes. And after I went out searching for them and getting them back to us, I adopted them so it would never happen again. We are obsessed with not letting dogs run free. So our plan, and that's the original place, where we were planning to put it, we moved it up to where the orchard is. There's already an 8-foot fence to keep the deer out. Our plan was to leave that 8-foot fence in place and then build our fence inside attached to the facility. So we would have a long run of dog runs, and each of those is going to have an indoor-outdoor run with a guillotine door. So if we have a bad actor, a dog who just barks a lot, he doesn't have to be let out. He gets penalized and has to stay inside. Maybe have staff let him out a couple times a day so they can get some fresh air, but Mary Lou, who's here in the audience here, she is our very trusted volunteer I've been working with her for 25 years. So we wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for Mary Lou, because we wanted somebody there that we trust, that it's not gonna go awry, not gonna, get lazy. We're planning to hire staff. We're hoping 2 full-time equivalents locally, people that live nearby. I don't know if it'll be 4 part-timers or 2 full-timers to help her. And she keeps on making me promise, you're gonna get somebody to help me, right? And I said, no, yeah, I'm not gonna make you take care of 50 dogs. So we will have staff cleaning up. I don't know what the standard is, 2 or 3 times a day. I don't know what Mary Lou does. So within the run, so they're gonna have those runs. Every 5 run, we're gonna have a solid barrier. I've been talking to the consultants that are experts in this. And so we'll have no more than 5 dogs that can see each other when they're outside. On top of that, the outside fence is gonna have the sound barrier, which is opaque. So they're not gonna see the deer. They might see this odd squirrel that maybe climbs over it, or stray cat that may come in. But my experience is, when they see something happen, they bark. But if there's only 5 dogs, and Mary Lou is really good at, because she's all the time, every week she's saying, I moved so-and-so, because she boards a couple at her house. I moved so-and-so because they hate so-and-so. And so she'll be constantly moving the dogs, so the dogs that like each other and that are not going to be loud. And then we're going to have probably, I'm not sure how many yet. We're hoping to have flexibility to have some isolation runs. For the real bad actor, they're not going to be able to see another dog on either side of them, indoor or outdoor. And we're just giving them a safe place to be until we can move them to a foster home. That's the other thing. They don't stay there till they find a home. They stay there till we find a foster home. One of our biggest heartbreaking thing is when the shelter calls and, tomorrow they're going to kill 5 dogs. Can you take them? If we don't have foster homes, we can't take them. So we just need a safe place to bring them. So we can, I can answer on the, because I'm constantly on my phone. My kids, my grandkids, they disrespect me all the time because I'm always on the phone answering messages from people with dogs that are going to die. So that way we can say, yes, we'll take them, because we know we have 10 empty runs. So, okay, we'll take the 5 dogs, and then have the whole team here. So then Melissa over here, she'll put out the email, urgent, we're bringing in 5 dogs. And I tell you, we commit to them. They're in the van on the way here. Our drivers are here, Diane and Dottie. They're on their way coming back from Southern Virginia. And they don't have places for them to go, but en route, Melissa said, oh, I found a foster for this one, I found a foster for that. So a lot of times, they won't even make it to Mary Lou's house. So maybe she'll end up taking 2 of the 5, and then the van continues from there into Fairfax and meets at the Greenbrier Shopping Center next to my house, and that's where the fosters meet them. So we just need the flexibility of a safe, clean, properly built facility to hold the dogs till they go to foster homes. Now, sometimes we get dogs returned, and we, maybe they're bad actors, but we also employ a couple of trainers. So if we do have bad actors, some of them are board and trained, they'll take them to their house and fix them. Sometimes they'll work with the foster home, sometimes they'll come out to the kennel. And then we do have some volunteers. Now, this is about an hour and 15 minutes from where we live, but we're hoping to develop, some volunteers, partner with the local high schools. I know kids at the Honor Society need hours. Our adoption events in Chantilly, we probably half of our volunteers are teenagers needing their hours and their parents who come and stay with them. And they love it so much, they either end up adopting or end up being fosters or being volunteers themselves. So we're hoping to incorporate Madison County in that sort of process too. Not required. So as for number of vehicles, I can't imagine any scenario where it'll be 15 vehicles unless we're having a cookout or something. We have vans there. We have one van that'll hold 20 dogs and the others will hold 12 each. So we're very strategic and money conscious. So like I said, the van will come from the shelter, stop at Mary Lou's, sometimes pick up dogs from Mary Lou's and then take them on a fair. So we're minimizing the number of trips back and forth. And then every Saturday we'll have one van go and one van come back. That's once a week. I really don't know that we'll be using the facility much for cats. We figured we'd build that in. We put in extra rooms, so sometimes we have like little puppies. We want a safe place for them. They'll be totally indoors. They're not going to be impacting the neighborhood. So we just want to have, that's why I didn't want to be tied to, well, just make it 15 or just make it 20. I just wanted to have a lot of space so that we have that flexibility, move dogs around so that we can keep them quiet and not have to, constantly be adjusting. What else? I think we're also an asset to the community. We help people too. So not too long ago, there was a vet that was living in a tent with his wife and their 5 cats and 2 dogs. So one of the local churches came to us and said, well, these folks, we found temporary housing for them, but not for their animals. Can you help? And they're ready to live out through the winter at the park. So we found a foster to take the 5 cats and I think one of our boarding facilities to take the 2 dogs. And we kept them for, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 months. And then they found housing that allowed dogs and then we reunited them. 9 months? Didn't seem so long. So 9 months, this is not the only homeless vet. More often than not, it's a senior citizen either passed away and their family can't take the animals, which, is not a happy thing, but so we prioritize local families. Madison County will be one of our local families, Fairfax and Madison. So if you have grandma that's going in the nursing home and she has 2 cats, come to us because we specialize in that. We have people that just love the senior kitties, and it's very heartbreaking when you hear their person died or the person's going in the nursing home, and people really step up for those. So I have 2 senior cats coming to my house after Christmas because a friend of the family is going into a nursing home. So, we just do that, and like I said, what else? I can talk for hours and hours. I have example after example of things we've done. We are one of the good ones, and I know I keep saying that, but there are a lot of bad ones, and I can tell you all about the bad ones and what they do. We thoroughly interview folks. Most of our applications come online, and then we have them meet us at the adoption events in Chantilly. People come from 2, 3, 4 hours away and come to our event, and we do a lot of it. And I specialize in the expediting. When we got a really great home, I'll call them right up, interview them, do their virtual home check, and call the vet the next morning and arrange for them to meet the foster at their home. So very little of what we do is going to be at the kennel. This is just for the flexibility and just to have a permanent place. Right now, we spend a lot of money taking care of our animals. We'd like to put it into some real property, a legacy for the future. If times get really tough, you can operate it for minimal money, and be able to continue in the future. And we've seen the ups and the downs. During the pandemic, it was like crazy. I was very proud of how Hart pivoted, and that's why we are the way we are today. Is a lot of the pivot we did during the pandemic made us a lot more efficient and a lot less in person. So, okay, so we are planning to build So, like I said, the existing barn is there. It's going to cost us quite a bit to turn it into a kennel, but that's the cost-effective way to do it. We have 2 little buildings, the little sheds, that we're going to look into after talking to our consultants, move them adjacent to the barn so that we can have a few more, and so that we can ramp up, like you said. And we'll recognize that this will be a trial run. So the neighbors will see how noisy it'll be. You'll still have the same ability to keep them quiet. We'll still have the tall, at least a 6-foot fence around the perimeter, all opaque so they don't see anything. I think Mary Lou can tell you the biggest noise creating thing is when a deer or something comes in the yard or somebody drives up. So if it's all opaque, they won't see that. I do think the site that we settled on, because of one of the neighbors' complaints, is probably not the optimum place to build it. I really think that up in the orchard, which is unfortunately closer to that property, but it's up on the hill, but it's 3 sides of it is already surrounded by trees. The plan would be to put the solid fence around it and then plant some sort of shrubbery to block some of the sound. And it's also closer, Mary Lou will be staying in that upper house, which will be adjacent to that. We have the Rector family that'll be living in the other house, so either way, we'll have somebody there, but near the property, so. And it's gonna cost $100,000 to get the facility to design, so we're not doing that till we get the special use permit. We have to be, we're using donated funds, so we have to be responsible how we spend them. I've had a lot of conversations with the civil engineer and with the architect, and they do have a little bit of concerns about moving it down there in the woods. We may have to take out trees. I don't know how flat the land is, but we'll do whatever we have to do to build it, so hopefully it can be done, so. I think that's it. Did I miss any points, guys?
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Yes, Mike.
I got two questions for you.
Okay.
I can ask them individually. One is you identified that the dogs are kind of in rotation.
Oh, yeah.
So roughly kind of, how often do they rotate in and out, on an average? I know it's hard to say because you have bad actors and they might sit there for a while, or whatever. Just have on an average.
How long do they stay with you? Yes, these are our drivers. I mean, it's like, so we may have a van coming every day to pick up a dog, drop off a
I'm
dog.
not talking about traffic, I'm just talking about.
Yeah, the dog. So, yeah, so
in and out.
it's constant. Okay, so the minute we find a foster home, we find the next van that's coming that way. And it said, okay, hey, Diane, when's the next time you're driving up to Mary Lou's? Can you pick up so-and-so? So we'll have some, bad actors, maybe the ones that are not so good in the house, that they may stay a little bit longer. We're hoping to have volunteers come. We have, talking about the human contact, our plan is to have playrooms within the building so that volunteers can come and get the dogs out and play with them. So we do, that's what we don't have now. We have folks that'll foster a few dogs in their house, but, we wanted to have a nice play area. I've looked at a lot of different facilities and try to model after those.
I went down to the Madison shelter and talked to them down there. And they gave, one instance was when I walked in, was one particular dog was barking a lot. And I'm like, what's going on with this guy? Well, he's been here for 3 months. And he's just been here for 3 months. In fact, she told me she'd written y'all an email to try to see if y'all could help out.
We're taking them.
Oh, okay.
We're taking
Well,
them,
good.
and those are the ones that's when Melissa comes and she says,
So you're
everybody,
having
yeah.
a bad actor.
Oh, wait, yeah, we're getting a bad actor,
Okay.
but that's where Melissa comes in, and she'll put out this urgent email. So-and-so is very unhappy at the kennel, and sometimes we'll swap, okay, can you take these
It's a
two?
sweet dog, but barked a lot.
Exactly, so, and that's where you gotta find them the right place to go.
Yeah.
And another dog with me, zoom around the yard together, sometimes that's my house.
Secondly, I wanted to ask, have you had a contractor or who you were calling to look at that location where it's
Not
on
yet.
this now?
Not yet, because that was all,
Okay.
a lot of back and forth with me and Ligon this past
So
week.
y'all just kind of drew that in without really looking at the site?
Well, I mean, I went to the site. I mean, I think it's possible. It was just a concession. They understand that it might cost more money, but that was a concession they were willing to make, so.
Because I would think that up there where the orchard is would not be a good place.
No.
You're up on top of that hill now, and you're right at the property line. You've moved that a
Well, this
lot
is-
closer
yeah.
to the neighbors.
This is before I was aware that there was a particular, so when I misunderstood. I thought that we had made contact with all the neighbors, so apparently there was one that we did not make contact with. Next door neighbors, so we're, the rectors and, I don't know the names, the people next to that, we spoke to them. So I'd heard nothing but really positive things, so maybe it was naive of me to think that there was not a problem. I thought that Mary Lou had met the other folks, and I think somebody passed the message wrong to me, so yes, that was naive, that was not me thumbing my nose at people. If you look at the map, I mean, there's a dog kennel over there, the rectors are over there, the other rectors are living on the property. So I see the house over here, it just seems so far away, Mr. Yagi's property. And other than that, where are the nearest houses? I mean,
This, not discussion now, please. Okay, any other questions?
Okay, so anyway.
Actually, I believe the nearest house is Mr. Rector, isn't it?
Yeah, so we met, and actually, when we just came to look at the property, we met them, and there's like, I said, oh my God, I mean, we love the property, we love the view. We're thinking, what a wonderful place for our dogs to be. We met the Rector family, and we're like, oh my God, I mean, this is like a dream come true. We've been looking for 3 years. And compared to any other place we found, there's relatively no neighbors compared to the other places. So we're very conscious of not trying to be bad neighbors. And like I said, a lot of that is within our control. We can put the animals in the building if we have the bad actor. You know, we try to get them to a foster home as quick as we can. And if they have to be indoors only, we will make them indoors only. We're not going to just, you know, let them out to go to the bathroom a couple times a day and then make them stay inside otherwise, so.
And lastly, and then I'll cut this one off.
Sorry.
So if this is, you're not running this as a business, so the way I understand from what Regan had said is that you really wanted to do this as 50, and you really needed to do it as 50, but if you're gonna be doing this as a nonprofit, based on donations and whatnot, you could build this out as you go along. Would you be receptive to a lower number?
Well, so, I mean, we purchased the property with a donation from a donor, and we sold him on the project to say we would be able to increase our numbers. So we told him we would build a kennel that'll hold 50 dogs, which would increase our ability to save dogs. So that's why we're stuck on that number. He gave us a lot of money. We still need a lot more, so it's not like we're overflowing, but
You understand that might not be disapproved of?
no, I understand that. So we will start off with the 15 dogs in the temporary, in that barn. We'll look at maybe adding another 6. I'm not sure if we're going to do that, if it's going to be cost effective or not. And then when we build the facility, because we have 50 runs doesn't mean we're necessarily going to put 50 dogs in there. And I don't know that we will have 50 dogs in there. We just want to have the flexibility of moving around and, you know, as if we have puppies, they'll be indoors, so you won't hear those, so.
Any other questions? Just to help me clarify in my own mind a little bit, I understand that this is somewhat in flux and that you're kind of modifying things as you need to. At one point, you were talking about like portable buildings or something like that for these temporary structures. Is that no longer in the picture?
No, because we thought about it. The barn, there's a little barn there in front of the house, and we could fit 15 runs in there. And the buildings we have are old, and I think it would be expensive to move them. So
Okay.
we are, debating whether we would do that or not. Our first thought was to move those and not touch the barn, but then we own the barn. We and they'll all be together. It'll be a pretty efficient way to take care of them. So.
Okay, following up with that then, if you invest the money to build 15 runs in this barn that's existing there, are you counting that as the total of 50 when you build the new building? Or are you
No.
going to be looking at 65?
No. We would be retiring that. We might.
Okay, so you're not going to keep that?
No, and we might repurpose it for storage or for cats. I mean, if maybe we get a feral cat colony that we can use, so our plan would not be to put dogs in there.
Okay.
And it's not perfect. It doesn't have the drainage. That's why we want to have the new facility and use that, because it'll be proper. It'll have the drainage. It'll have, fire alarms and whatever is needed. We'll have camera surveillance so we can see what's going on. And we'll be monitoring that remotely, not just locally. So.
Okay, in an earlier discussion, this has been touched on already tonight, but the shall we say, solid waste disposal, I thought is that in the conditions league, and I don't see it right now.
I do believe it is.
But anyway, my question is a little bit of more clarification on that. I think it said something like household disposal or something like that. I assume there's some kind of professional disposal service that you all contract with?
We'll just get a trash service and just bag it and throw it out with the trash.
In the county transfer station?
Well, we're hoping to have a trash service come up. I noticed some trash cans out on the street, so, but we're hoping to have a company that'll come take the trash once a week or whatever service they offer out here. Which I assume would take it to the landfill or the transfer station or whatever you have out here.
The local services do, yeah.
Yeah.
That may present some problems. I don't think that's ideal for the transfer station facility.
I think that's what shelters do. I mean,
Well, that's what we were saying, that the
Is
shelter,
that
that's
what
what
the
they
animal
were saying.
shelter
yeah.
does?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think that somebody told me the shelter does that, so we assume it's good for them.
How many runs does the animal shelter have? Do we have?
28 dogs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a question for the applicant? And we done pestering you. Okay. Thank you, ma'am, then. Okay. Obviously, it looks like most of the public comment is addressing this. Again, for any public comment, if you would please attempt to keep it down to 3 minutes. Remember, this is meant to be public comment. This is not a question and answer session. You're not asking questions from the Planning Commission. You're simply stating either your agreement or your disagreement or whatever, any problems. And if you would, please use the microphone and identify yourself when you go to speak. Any public comment? Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
You can stand in line, that's fine, go ahead.
Tracy Gardner, Economic Development and Tourism Director, and speaking on behalf of my being on the Development Committee. At our last meeting, they seemed to address all the issues. From that standpoint, there are mechanisms put in place, so I feel pretty comfortable with that as well. I also like that they're going to hire locally, and I feel very confident about the interaction. I think will be great too. I personally admire these organizations. As a resident, I live next to people with a lot of hunting dogs, and would love to see some of that fencing they were talking about with the opaque and all that. That'd be great. But those ordinances don't apply to that. And then I also have noticed that they have a great relationship already with the shelter. So those are all my positives for this. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Elias. I live 4316 over there on Wayland's Mill. And I appreciate this process a lot because I learned a lot about our county, Madison County, which I did not know. And some of the things that I learned was that some time ago, some wise people like yourselves put in a comprehensive plan for the prosperity and well-being of Madison to plan the community so it'll be good for everybody and attractive for reputable businesses like Hart. Seems to be a reputable business or nonprofit, but it's kind of like a business. But taking care of animals, very commendable. And we have chickens, goats, a cow, dogs, kids, a business that we work out of our house. So that's right across the street. One of the things it says in the comprehensive plan, if you're not familiar with it, is that this was done, the Planning Commission sought and obtained input from the county residents through widely circulated questionnaire, numerous interviews with public and private sector leaders, and they came up with a plan, and it has 8 goals, and we have a vision statement, which I agree with. And as the residents of Madison County, we value and wish to preserve the county's scenic beauty, rural environment, farms and forests, friendly atmosphere, balanced economy, and good schools. We also recognize the need for economic growth, improved internet service, and public utilities. The goals and implementation strategies presented in this comprehensive plan are designed to enable the county to realize this vision. And I think one of the things I learned from this is to honor. I think it's important to honor the people that came before us, that put the time and their sweat equity into devised such a good vision and a path for us. And I don't think that we should, and I don't think we do, but I think it's important that we take seriously the decisions we make when we plan our community. And it's important for that. One of the goals, goal number 1 here that I wanted to, the first goal is to preserve, protect, enhance the natural beauty, rural character, air, water, quality of Madison County, and sustain agriculture, forestry as the county's primary land use. And it has strategies for the 8 goals. And then there's a statement, and then it comes to the, what I learned about was the different, to implement this, from my understanding is we have certain zone criteria, like the comprehensive, or conservation, agricultural, residential, business, industrial, and things like that. And then there's a description of what each one of these zones are. And I think it's important that we, if we want to stay true to the vision of Madison County, that we stay true to the intent of these designated zones, and we don't deviate from them too much. I mean, there's a lot of room. For example, the agricultural, the definition for that is this district is established for the purpose of accommodating all types of rural, open land uses such as agriculture and forestry, along with kindred rural occupations. The basic aim is to promote farming as a continuing way of life in Madison County. The agricultural area should maintain a low development density, allowing farm and local estate residences. Intensive suburban growth is less feasible. The permitted uses are broad enough to allow expanded residential uses in pre-planned and staged locations, recognizing the future trends and orderly growth, at the same time discouraging random scattering. And a kennel is allowed, but how big of a kennel? I mean, what's the criteria? It's a special use because we got to take each individual kennel and say, hey, does this fit in the agriculture, or does it fit better somewhere else? Is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 30, 50, 100, 200? How big of a kennel? I mean, for me, the picture of that kennel for that Hart wants to do is very well put together. It's a very nice kennel. But I don't think it belongs, in my opinion, doesn't belong in the agricultural. It belongs more in a business or industrial section like at Shelby Road.
Excuse me, we've allowed 5 minutes now. If you would please wrap it up. Thank you.
Okay. A prudent man first sees evil and hides himself, but the foolish go on and suffer the consequences. There's enough for the special use. The business district allows for this size kennel to be, and I think that's where it belongs according to the intent of the comprehensive plan. We have 2 kennels already on 29, one in Culpeper, one in Madison. They're not overloaded at the moment. This property right here, for the kennel to go on there, once it's built, it's a permanent structure, belongs in the business or commercial industrial, not in agricultural around our farms. If a dog gets out and takes out some of our chickens unintentionally, it's going to cost the county money because there's ordinances, $750 each. So there's that. The road is a 1-lane road that goes down there, Wayland's Mill. The traffic, we're already full with traffic on that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay? So
Appreciate it.
I'm not in favor of the kennel being there. I'm in favor of the kennel Hart being in the proper zone, a business district or industrial. Thank you.
All right, other public comment? Yes, sir.
I hate to do this, I am not a lawyer. Hey Dustin, can you hear me? Sound bounces off.
Please identify yourself at the mic.
It's just talking about the sound of the kennel.
Hi, I'm Ron Yaggy. I'm the infamous neighbor that complains about this. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we bought and spent our entire life savings on the property next door. Spent 27 years in the military, 100% disabled vet. We have a lake down the hill from them that's spring fed that goes through the property. And my wife and I, every moment that we can, because I was never at home when I was serving, go down to our lake and spend time there and try to have peace and quiet, something that I didn't have in combat. So the thought of having 50 dogs up there, and dogs are going to bark even when they don't see each other. They bark. They hear another dog barking, dogs bark. As we found out from there, Dustin, you heard me, correct? Yes. Yes. That's a solid wall. That's not a little piece of opaque baffling on a 6-foot fence. I was very good friends with the previous owners. They were actually from Iran, and I was on the Iranian hostage rescue back in the day. So we were close, and they escaped when the Ayatollah came in. She told us when she found these buyers, she had a doctor who was going to pay $780,000 for the property, $30,000 more than Hart offered. But she didn't like him and didn't think we would. And she was told, and her realtor confirmed it today, and my wife reached out to Shori, her name is Shori, that when Hart first came to them, they said that they were not planning on having animals at the property, that it was going to be just for fundraising. And so she was distraught. So there's two people, the realtor is Bill Gentry from Madison. I sent an email to you guys. You have her phone number and you have his phone number. You can call and talk to them directly. So that's, she said she wouldn't have sold it to them had she known. That's neither here nor there because they bought a property that back in 2016 sold for $250,000 and paid $750,000 as a nonprofit. There are 300,000 animals that get, dogs and cats that get euthanized every year in Virginia. And I bet you, because she's a good woman, she would like to save all 300,000 of them. And ma'am, I bet you if you had $10 million to give to them, you would give it to them. And so you got to ask yourself a question. They bought 35 acres for one 10,000 square foot facility. What happens if they get that $10 million grant? They're going to come back to the board that's already approved the first 50 dog kennel, and they're going to put another one and another one, trying to save $300,000, right? They bought the property without going, as Ligon said, to the council first, or even to the neighbors saying, what do you think? If they were your financial investors, would you say that was a smart thing to do? Spend $750,000 before you even talk to a planning committee about getting a special use permit? So I think they're an honorable organization. Don't get me wrong. I'm not beating them up on that result. But the fact that, quote, they will do what they say is what you said. At least according to the previous owners and her realtor, that wasn't the case. The fact that the last meeting they were told that they reached out to all of the neighbors. They didn't reach out to Tom, they didn't reach out to Mike, they didn't reach out to me. So, and then in the condition that Ligon put down, under mutual agreement, they will put the dogs inside. Well, in the spring, we go to our lake every day. Would you want to hear 50 dogs barking when you're trying to go to the lake and spend some time with your wife of 46 years? So it's tough. I love animals. I love dogs. I love what they're doing. I don't understand why for $750,000 they needed a 35-acre property. And we looked around. There are thousands of properties across the state that are available. They said they bring these dogs from other counties. And if you look on our website, they only adopt in the Washington, D.C. metro area. So all they're doing for Madison is they're not helping Madison dogs. They're helping state dogs. And they're helping adoptees in Fairfax and all. After the last meeting, I thought, oh man, this is cooked. I've already lost because I didn't hear about the October meeting. So I went to Ligon and I said, Ligon, there's a lot of concerns about this, but mine, biggest one is noise. Why don't they build an indoor soundproof facility like they do in urban areas, by the way, for dogs? Because you go to Fairfax County, there's a reason that they're not doing this in Fairfax County.
Begin to wrap up, please.
Yeah.
We've already had 6 minutes.
All right, so how it is serving the public interest of Madison County, I don't know. So they're a good organization, but I think for that amount of money, they could have served a lot more dogs someplace else, and perhaps been a little more judicious with the donors' money.
Thank you, sir. Other public comment?
I'm Tommy Carney. I live directly across the street from 43B. I own those two properties right there where it says Ford Truck Road. We bought the property about 4 years ago. I want to get my notes here. One of the things that really gets me here is this process. The whole reason we're here is because Hart did not do their due diligence before they bought that property. They bought that property with the intention of putting this dog rescue facility there. They did not contact any of the neighbors, maybe one. They did not contact the county to say, is this possible to do this? Is this zoning correct? And that has led to this. The majority of these people in here are neighbors, as you can see by the letters that are in these documents here. Ron and I were the only ones here at the last meeting, at the November meeting, because we weren't aware of the October meeting, okay? We have a lot more buy-in here, a lot more, and we could have had a lot more people here. The traffic is one thing, dirt road, Wayland's Mill, it goes down to a private road. We don't want the dust. Our house is always covered with dust. The biggest thing, besides them not doing the proper footwork, and I heard her say assume multiple times when she was up here. We assume this is going to happen. We assume we're going to get people to help work here. You don't do business based on assumptions, okay? I'm not a public speaker, so I'm looking a little nervous or whatever, okay? So, anyways, noise is number one. We have a beautiful wraparound porch. We have the kennel. We hear an occasional barking. It's fine. Their dogs bark. Our dogs bark. Mike's dogs bark. It is no question about it. If we limited the facility, if we did limit the facility, we don't want to be the guinea pigs that come and say, in 3 months, it's noisy. In 6 months, it's noisy. In 9 months, it's noisy. Bring it up to you guys. Bring it up to you. All this is stress and strain on us because they did not do their due diligence. Okay, I got some facts here. I'm shaking here, see? Okay, so sound levels in animal shelters regularly exceed 100 decibels, and that is published by the Hearing Health Foundation of America. They say that sounds between 100 and 130 are harmful and equivalent to a rock concert, an auto racing, and a jackhammer. Now, a dog's not barking 24 hours straight, okay? But they are barking. They're going to be those peaks, okay? Texas A&M research showed that you can hear a dog barking from 1 to 2 miles away based on the terrain and any obstructions, okay? Where that planning is being built is up on the hill. People are going to hear it 2 miles away. I've also visited the shelter last weekend. I only counted 16 pens. So maybe there was 24, but I counted 16. As soon as I pulled up, there's no houses anywhere near the dump. Zero. The dogs started barking. They barked the whole time I was there. There's only 5 dogs there when I was there. And the lady said they don't get that many dogs when there's a stray dog or one gets brought in. A couple of things here. Okay. Again, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. Okay. Right in the Madison County rules and regulations, it says, I'm going to read this here. It was in the packet, but just for the other people that are here. If a special permit, wait a minute, in order for a special permit to be granted, that the following considerations need to be Such special use permit application would only be considered if it complies with the following standards. With regard to dust and odor, let me sort of address that, it's gonna be dusty, okay? The use shall not tend to change the character and established pattern of development in the area in which it's intended to locate. It's gonna change our neighborhood. The use shall be in harmony with the intent of zoning district. It was not. They did not do the due diligence, okay? And shall not adversely affect the use of the neighboring properties or the welfare of people living and working in the neighborhoods of its use. None of those things were met, okay? Couple statements they said here, they bark at deer. I have a 6-foot fence around my property. You know how many times deers come in there? Every single night, okay? I've got apple trees, they have an orchard. You know why? Because they love the orchard, okay? The dogs bark. We also have kids with ATVs, which is fine, we live in the country. The ATV goes down the road, the dogs are barking, okay? Any case, the bottom line is, we have a peaceful, beautiful neighborhood. We love all of our neighbors. We're here together because we want to make sure that Madison County does the right thing for us. It follows the rules that they've set. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Concise and well done. Thank you. Other public comment? Yes, sir.
Esteemed members of the Planning Commission and honorable members of the Board of Supervisors, my name is Andy Gayhart. I don't come to you as a lawyer, I come to you as one of the landowners of 4313. On behalf of my parents, Marshall and Nancy, and my 2 brothers, we're against the SUP, the special use permit. And I think Mr. Carney outlined probably the main thing he says, this is just not keeping in the character of the area. And we all know dogs bark, as Jim Smith, when one barks, there goes another. It's going to be loud. We all know it. And then, is this a need? Is this addressing a need of Madison County? It's not. The shelter's more than adequate for Madison. Now, is it an important need? It is for all dogs. But it's not a need for the county, and it's not in character with the neighborhood. Because the neighborhood has clearly been, I've been, of course, I'm from Culpeper, but that land's been in our family for almost 100 years. And it's just been a lot of growth around there. And they're residential, but they're big lots, so it's kind of a rural residential area. But a 10,000 square foot dog kennel is just not appropriate for that area. And I one day maybe want to live out there, but I certainly wouldn't want to live out there with that right beside me. And I like dogs too. I live with a dog, just me and the dog. But we're just against it, that's all. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Other public comment? Well, let's see if there's anyone else first. Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Walker again, and thank you, sir, for your service. I appreciate it. My father, Corporal Robert Leroy Smith, went to the Korean War and was the first quadruple amputee home from the Korean War. And he went through and married my mother and had 3 of us, got divorced, got married again, and had another. I have a half-brother too, and he was the most well-adjusted, kind-hearted person. So I appreciate you. Thank you for your service. And moving up to the farm just 3 years ago to be with my uncle, things have changed. Things are going to change, and we can't stop it as much as we want to. The property next to me, it used to be a nice big long property, but the farm next to it sold a bunch of properties, and so I've got neighbors that I can't see through the trees, but I can hear them. And it's not dogs, it's guns. And they're shooting their guns and they're practicing their gun shooting. But sometimes they're not shooting guns. I'm hearing bombs. That's frightening to me. I'm hearing bombs going off. Okay, so, and dogs do bark a lot in this area. People have hound dogs, and those hound dogs bark a lot. So I'm hearing what you're saying about the noise. As the other thing I wanted to address was the urine from the facility, from the temporary facility. When I came up, when Granddaddy died, William Henshaw took over the cows. And then Grandma died. She went to the nursing home first, and then she passed away. My uncle was there. When I got up here 3 years ago, William Henshaw was no longer leasing the property. He was just using the property. And the cattle were in the stream. I'm selling the farm if anybody's interested, because my son's in Idaho, and I need to go to Idaho where he is. So anyway, the spring water comes out of this hill, and I have 3 spring-fed water troughs. So that spring water comes down, fills this main trough up. But it also comes up from this side, and it fills the stream. And that stream fills the lake, and William allowed the cattle to live in the stream. I had Culpeper Soil and Water come out and give me an idea, what can we do? And it never went anywhere. I finally paid out of pocket to the man who now leases my property properly to put a fence up to keep the cattle out of the water. So this lake that I swam in as a little girl, I could not swim in the last 2 years. This last year, I probably could have, because the cattle had been gone. I got William off the property before my uncle left. But anyway, you know, and I worried about my neighbors downstream. They don't know that this water flowing under Hoover Road into their field is full of cow dung, and that bothered me. And so I just wanted to let you know that I don't know if it's 1 or 2 cows, but I don't think the urine is a problem. Now, if you're talking about a pig farm, okay, that's a whole nother story.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead to the microphone, please.
Thank you for giving me another opportunity. One thing I didn't mention, which a procedure thing, it says no such special permit shall be heard except after the public notice has been given in accordance with the requirements of the Code of Virginia 15.1-431 as amended, and it says 2-mile radius. So that's the whole area. There was no signs put up to let anybody know what was being proposed on that property. So this is something I printed off from, but so that was it on that. I don't know how we can hear this or make a decision today without letting everyone know on Meander Run, Ford Shop Road, and around the surrounding areas according to the rule right here.
Thank you, sir. And we do want to make sure that everybody does have a chance to speak. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Christina Rector. I lived on there. My husband and I took care of the farm before for the old owners. They spread fertilizer, weed killer. We had cows there. We spread manure. It never affected the water at all. So that is not a problem. They had dogs in the orchard and everything. Another thing, you live on a dirt road, you're going to have dirt. They said they'll be there in out one time. That's one more vehicle, what, twice a day? One extra vehicle, that's not bad. Another thing, they said that it wouldn't affect the shelters. Well, the shelters already contacted them. They have 5 dogs, but they've already contacted them, asking them to take a dog. So they are helping Madison. They are helping the other areas. And there has been times when Madison, Culpeper, everywhere else has been overrun because I've been there. I love animals. They need a safe place to stay. The noise, they said they soundproof it. I've been in that area. We have people who have, in the area, who have sensors that dog barks and gun shooting to keep bears out, and that's okay. In their yard, 4, 5, 6 sensors, that's dogs barking, that's gun shooting, but nobody says anything about that. And, you know, traffic is all up and down through there. That's all I have to say. And I do want to say, Mike Rector and Debbie Rector do approve it. They have no issue with it.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment? Let other people first, please. Yes.
Hi, my name is Shannon Jr. I am a Madison resident. I am a volunteer at the animal shelter. I've done that for over 15 years. The Madison Animal Shelter does need help. My friend Janelle and I take dogs to PetSmart. We have dogs that have trouble getting adopted. Heart has helped us in the past. Years ago, they took dogs from us. What they're doing is awesome. We need the help. I'm happy to volunteer. Janelle can volunteer. We can take dogs to PetSmart with the shelter dogs. I grew up in the suburbs. I moved to Madison because I wanted a quieter way of life, and I can tell you the suburbs are way quieter than Madison County is. If you go outside, there's gunshots, there's four-wheelers, there's roosters, there's tannerite. You were talking about the bombs going off. There's growth that happens. And, you know, I moved here because I wanted to have some elbow room, and we just need to accept that there's going to be change and there are going to be people that want to move here and enjoy the way of life. And I hope this goes through for everyone.
Thank you. Other public comments? Yes, go ahead. Come on back up.
So a couple of comments at Christina, we're friends. I think we are. Yeah, I'm the one with the bear sensors. It's 28 decibels, and it goes off for like 15 seconds. It still only goes, so that's 28 decibels. Wait, it's 28 decibels. The dog is 100 decibels.
This is not
So
a,
if the dog, if you can hear it at your property at 28 decibels, what's 100 decibels going to do?
all right, please, this is not meant to be an argument. This is a comment section.
But I have a solution that will make everybody happy. Why don't you build this shelter at the Madison shelter, expand it to allow for 50 dogs, use the property you just bought for fundraising only. Nobody's going to complain, the neighbors out at Madison, because they've already got a dog shelter there. Tom and I will shut up in mine, right? We'll help you move the dogs there. That's an option. But also, what bothered me a little bit too is when I proposed to Ligon about an indoor-only facility, soundproofed, and it was turned down. So why? They'll have to answer that. But they adopt dogs in Fairfax area. I lived 24 years there. Most people inside the DC area work, both couples. Those dogs in townhouses and in homes stay at home all day while the couples work. It's not considered cruel. I guarantee you that they will adopt animals to those people. So why not have, why did they just immediately turn down an indoor facility? Because the dogs would like to be outside. Well, I mean, I love animals, but somewhere along the line, don't people come first? And again, I'd suggest, since you're Madison County and that animal shelter's in Madison County, why don't you work to get a 10,000 square foot animal shelter there? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment first? Yes, as a member of the public.
So first of all, before we bought the property, I called Ligon. I looked it up. Researched it. It said a kennel is allowed with a special use permit. Ligon agreed that that is the case. So I did research, and as for the people that we bought the property from, the day we met them, we made it very clear what our purpose was, and they said it, thought it was wonderful. So I don't know if they said something different to Mr. Yagi, but the people we sold to, we've been very clear, very transparent. The day we came to see the property, we met the rectors, and told them very clearly. They told me that the other buyer wanted to do an Airbnb or something like that, and they didn't like what they're doing the property for. The other thing is we bought 35 acres so that we have space around us so we don't bother the neighbors. If we want, if we wanted to save money, we would have bought 5 acres but the purpose of that, and it's 2/3 of it's wooded. Our plan is to leave those trees there. We might make paths so volunteers can walk the dogs. We're not gonna have it subdivided and turned into a bunch of houses. I mean, that's part of what the county is trying to do, right? We're preserving the land. Our plan is for this to be there for 100 years, doing the good thing and being a good neighbor and not allowing expansion on the property. So I don't think we're violating that. The indoor runs, we can't afford to have people come and hand walk dogs to go outside. So that's why we want the indoor-outdoor run, so we don't have to do that. We don't have that kind of money, and it's a waste of money, so. And Madison County is beautiful, and we saw the property, and immediately we knew that was the property we wanted. And that's the place we wanted our dogs to be. If we're gonna have them indoors, we buy a warehouse in Fairfax and do it out there, but this is what we wanted for our dogs, so I think that was it.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, well, one last time. Any other public comment?
Again, Mike, I do agree with what the solution that Ron brought up to have that kennel that size in at the Shelby Road, which is a commercial industrial zone, 74, on 241 acres.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
My name is Louis Rector. I have lived 285 Old Sparks Road. My dad is Mike and Debbie Rectors. I lived there for, I can't tell you how many years, most of my life. Mr. Gayhart, he has one of the largest properties that has been there since I can remember, since I was a kid. Where all the other houses used to be a 400 and some acre farm. I can remember me and my dad, Todd Kilby, we would take care of that farm. He had cows on it, we made hay on it. It has further since been subdivided, sold off in parcels, large parcels, some of them are smaller. But in my perspective, I'd love to have seen it stay a farm, to preserve what Madison County is all about. I am for the kennel. I think it would be a good thing considering the amount of animals that get dropped off at the Low Water Bridge down there. There's continuous cats coming up from down there. Just this past week, we found 4 kittens over at the Robertson River Bridge that had been dropped off. It may not be the greatest place in the world to put one, but from my standpoint, it is for the amount of animals that get dropped off on that dirt road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Charlene Boffinger, and I'm one of the board members of HEART. I've been doing rescue for 30 years, 27 with HEART. I wanted to make a point because I think you had talked about the decibel level, 100 decibels, but I think that's inside a facility. So I don't know what it is outside of a facility. I also just wanted to say that we really pride ourselves on being very careful with the dogs we take in, very careful with the placements of where our dogs go. Patricia was talking before about how we interview applicants, we do vet references, we do home checks. And something else I wanted to pick up that Patricia talked about is, because in one of the letters they were talking about, we're not helping Madison dogs. So I think you heard from the volunteer at the shelter that we are helping Madison dogs. We're helping dogs all over the state. But we also are helping people, and that's what Patricia was talking about. Whether it's the vet who is living out of the tent with his wife and his 2 dogs and 5 cats, or it's people who are dying and they can't, nobody in their family is Every day, we get requests from people who don't want to leave their dog. They don't want to dump it at the shelter where it might be euthanized. And most, it sounds like Madison is doing very well now, but years ago, we pulled so many dogs out of Madison County, and I was the one that was doing that along with Mary Lou. So I just wanted to make the point that, again, we really are helping people a great deal. Yes, our primary goal is to help animals. Let's be, very honest about that. But you can't help animals when you're doing rescue and you're not helping people, because even shelter staff, shelter volunteers get very attached to the animals. They don't want to see them euthanized. So they call us and say, Charlene, Patricia, Melissa, Kim, can you please help? Neville, can you please help take this animal? It has 2 more days or it's going to be euthanized. So we want to be a good neighbor. I realize that people don't want their community changed. We really want to be a good neighbor, and we want to work with you guys. That's why some of the language in there, that if there's a complaint, you'll have our phone numbers, you can call. If it's noisy, we can, adjust and move animals around. So we want to be a good neighbor. I don't know how else to say it. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, again, any other public comment? Okay, if not, any further discussion or comment from the planning commission?
I got some concerns that I want to say something about. I have a great admire for people that volunteer, whatever they do. I think it's a wonderful thing that we want to look after dogs and cats. But I got some problems with where we want to put these dogs and cats. We talk about noise. Well, I had hunting dogs all my life, and I could stand out at the road somewhere and hear those dogs run for 3 or 4 miles. We sat there to listen to those dogs run. So to tell me that the sound is going to be right there, that's not true at all. It's not going to happen. That sound is going to carry a long ways. One of the other concerns I got, if we were doing a lot to help Madison, Culpeper Orange, Rappahannock, whatever, these dogs are coming from all over the state. We're picking up dogs in the state everywhere and bringing them here. You've heard this gentleman speak, you've heard this gentleman speak, you've heard Mr. Gayhart speak. I can guarantee you, if this shelter's put there, their land value's going down. It's gonna happen. If Mr. Gayhart wants to develop his piece of property, his land's not gonna be as worth as much as it was with that shelter there. But the big concern I got is, and I talked about this earlier, if the new shelter is being told, you've got to put in a system to make sure you can control this urine, then I can't get it through my mind why we don't have to do it for a temporary system. If it wasn't demanded for the new system, how in the world would it not be demanded for the temporary system? And I got issues with all that stuff.
Thank you. Other comments?
I've got a question for Mr. Wright. So if we were to go through with this, and one of us suggested that we wanted to change the number, because I'm kind of hung up on that a little bit. Can the board stay, do they have to go with our recommendation, or can they come up with their own if they wanted to go back to the original? They have to go with our recommendation, or?
They're not bound by your recommendation, it's just that, it's recommendation.
Okay, they can make their own?
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
all right.
Other comments? It seems like the number seems to be kind of taking care of itself as far as the temporary building being 15 runs. And I guess we should ask what their timeline is that they're thinking about here. But that would give you some time period with a smaller number.
Well, it would be the 2-year mark, because
Yeah, well,
we've
yeah.
given them a time frame of when they have to have the permanent structure built, which I'm not in favor of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So they got the 2 years.
knowing what they might encounter in terms of regulations that might take longer than that, yeah. That-
And what about if they don't do this within the 2 years?
Right.
Is there anything that says that if it draws out longer, are we going to cancel their permit, or what's,
I mean, I think they'd have to come in and just have another hearing, and it didn't meet the condition, but, I mean, my understanding is they're planning on doing the engineering work, getting going, ASAP. But the thought was, we didn't want the temp facility to kind of, linger.
Drag on.
Get them in. I put in number 10, you could simply add the temporary, number 10 talks about temporary facility shall not exceed 15 dogs at any given time. That could be simply added to number 10, if you're inclined to vote in favor with the
Yeah.
conditions.
That would give at least some opportunity for the neighbors to see if the sound mitigation efforts are effective with a smaller group of dogs, which only really leaves us, I think, with one of Pete's problems, which is the urine just being put out on the ground.
Steve, you or Ligon, this project here, the size of it, is definitely gonna have to go through DDQ.
Right.
So when it goes to DDQ, and you have to get the disturbance permit, and DDQ looks at how the feces and the urine and all that stuff is controlled, DDQ could, you got a 2-year limit on this, DDQ could be 10, 12 months.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's why it's imperative to get the DEQ is just going to look at this, stormwater. So it's.
I don't believe
it's
that,
important.
not with dogs involved.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they have something, I'm not aware of, that they're looking at anything else but the stormwater. But, I mean, it's imperative to get those plans done pretty quick. I mean, you're right.
Well, I think in most of our experience, if you get DEQ involved, it's unlikely to be a timely effort.
I mean, if we had the plans today, which we don't have them today, but if we did, I'd give it 6 months. I mean, so.
Understanding if we didn't want the temporary to linger on, they are still bound to condition number 11, to where the neighbors probably will be complaining. I'm going to guess, because it's up there on that hill. It's up on a higher elevation. Just trying to help out in some way.
Well, include number 10. I would also, again, if you're inclined to vote to approve it, I would also say to 12, the temporary and permanent kennel facility shall install a 6-foot perimeter fence with sound baffling opaque material.
On the temporary?
Both. I mean, I would add that to the end of 12 as well. So
Well,
10.
that, we decided I thought that was going to be part of the site plan ordinance, or no?
I mean, we can add it in there now. I think,
Okay.
I mean, they're planning on
Okay.
doing it, but, I mean, we could just add those. Those are the two things that I would recommend just be slightly, slight additions.
So, Mr. Wright, can we make those changes, it's been advertised as way it's been advertised? Can those changes be made without re-advertising?
I would say yes, it's not so substantial that it requires re-advertising.
Thank you.
Okay, is that an agreeable change to the condition to specifically talk about the smaller number in the temporary facility as a limit on that? And the sound, all right. Are you also planning to do the interior sound deadening? Yes, okay.
So what?
So I would recommend at the number 10, just say the temporary facility shall not exceed 15 dogs at any given time.
And specify the sound deadening fence
And the interior shall utilize sound baffling techniques for the interior,
Which one?
for number 10. The temporary facility shall not exceed 15 dogs in any given time, and the interior shall install sound baffling materials.
Okay, I would ask also the last sentence, there's no mention of the height on these like you have on the others, so perhaps that might be.
On number 12,
Number 10, the temporary kennel. All outdoor dog run fences shall be covered with opaque sound baffling material as shown as Exhibit C, which is just a picture, it doesn't have any dimensions on it, so.
well, then we go over to number 12, and we say the temporary and permanent fence shall be 6 feet. I'll just add that to number 12. The temporary and permanent kennel facility shall install a 6-foot perimeter fence with sound baffling opaque material. About number 12, and that would catch the at least 6 foot, right?
All right, number 12 is the site plan condition.
Yes.
Is there going to be a site plan required for this temporary kennel?
No, because it'd just be administrative. I mean, it would be less than, they would just show me what the, when they come into the building permit, we could look at it.
All right, you've got most of that already in 10 for the temporary kennel. I just think, you may as well specify the 6 feet minimum like you've done for the permanent one. Just add that into that sentence. To a height of, sound baffling material to a height of 6 feet, as shown. I mean, we have, other than the access roads.
Number
which
10
is-
here?
Yeah, number 10, it's the temporary kennel facility. I don't see any reason to put that in the condition about the site plan, because I'm not sure that they have to get a site plan just to remodel an existing building, do they?
No, I mean, they would
Okay.
just show us,
So if we're going to have that condition on the temporary kennel, the number and the sound baffling to a height of 6 feet, that needs to be specified.
okay, do you want to just put that in there?
Yeah. Is that also agreeable? I mean, I'm not trying to push you to do something that you don't want to do, but the temporary kennel, you're already planning on taking the existing building, putting the 15 runs in it. You're going to have sound baffling material on the runs, inside, on the runs also. You're going to have exterior runs. Okay. Okay, so what we're saying we want to add is the actual number that we're talking about, 15. And that the height of the fence, the sound baffling will be 6 feet. All right, just specify that, a minimum of 6 feet. Yep. We really shouldn't, but if it's brief.
Who's going to look at the site to see that they actually have done that, and that they haven't just put some newspaper up on the fences?
No, I mean, we'll go out and inspect it.
Yeah, there has to be inspections on the building will have to be inspected, yes.
Is there a way to put some kind of sound detector, say the noise volume won't go over a certain level? It can easily be measured.
Madison does not have sound ordinances. Ligon has tried to take that into account by allowing the neighbors, if they object, to raise those objections. And we hope you would do that honestly if you do. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
And then to other questions, and all the neighbors weren't notified in existence. We just got the meeting ones right next door. We can go out to people within a mile, and we can have 30 people here that object. So the question is Madison County going to listen to 30 residents who don't want it, to a company that bought property here without getting approval and is bringing no value to the county? And it's going to bring our property value down, which is going to reduce our taxes that we're paying in Madison County.
Yeah. The notice is,
I mean, we sent it to.
Public notice
as-
is in the
as It's in the
paper.
paper, you know, we sent it to, we sent it to beyond what was required by the code. Yeah, I mean, we sent it out, we have you know, as far as an affidavit saying where we sent it to, I mean, we sent the letter out and, you know, met the requirements, that's without a question. As far as property values, I mean, I used to be in the appraisal business. I mean, it is speculative, it's hard to say. You know, what will it affect? I mean, my personal opinion is I don't think it's going to affect your assessment. Whether or not it affects property value, I mean, you know, it's like any ag use that was put beside you. It's you never know until you know, are trying to sell the property. So I just, it's hard to judge that. I mean, we in the last few years, I think property values have kind of doubled in the county in the last just short period of time. I mean, doing this in the comp plans, we know this, you know, a lot of data. But again, I just kind of go back to, I'm just trying to put together the best conditions that if you are inclined to approve, and I don't know that we're a majority are inclined to do that, but if we are, I think we have a pretty good set of conditions. And I would just reiterate number 10 to add at the bottom of number 10, the temporary kennel facility shall not exceed 15 dogs, and a minimum 6-foot fence shall be installed around the temporary facility with an OPEC sound baffling material.
okay. Any other comments or discussion from the planning commission?
I just wanted to let you know that you will.
Please, sir. Sir, this is not the purpose of this hearing. You've had 3 chances now for comments. Thank you. Any other discussion from the planning commission? All right, does anyone wish to make a motion here?
I will make a motion.
Thank you.
I'm going to change something else on my own,
Okay.
and we can go with it or not. I'll make a recommendation that case number SU-12-23-19 be recommended to the board supervisors for approval on conditions that items number 2 in the conditions be changed from 50 to 25.
I'm sorry, to be changed what?
All right, the number, okay.
Number of dogs to change from 50 to 25. And the way I understand it, the board can change that.
Mhm. Do you want to change the cats too?
I'm okay with
Cats, okay.
And that we, in item number 10, do a, under the temporary structure, that shall not exceed 15 dogs at any time,
Mhm.
include a sound baffling material, and shall have a 6-foot fence in height.
Okay. Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Let's vote by a show of hands. All in favor of the motion as amended by Mike, raise your right hand.
Sort of.
Okay, we've got 4. Okay. So 4 out of the 6 would be a majority. So we will be recommending with
Wait a
the,
minute, you gotta ask who opposes yet.
sorry, are those opposed? Okay. 2, okay. I'm corrected. All right, with the 2 changes, we will then have case number SU-12-23-19, recommended for approval to the Board of Supervisors with the change in condition 2, to reduce the total number of dogs to 25. And in condition number 10, the number of dogs not to exceed 15 in the temporary facility with a sound baffling material on a fence at least 6 feet. Okay, so we will have that recommended for approval in that form. All right, any other items from the Planning Commission? And I do think we have a request about some security measures for our emails. Could you address that for us, please? Rather than to me repeat it incorrectly.
So just for members of the Planning Commission's knowledge, at the last board meeting, we implemented new security procedures for the Microsoft 365 accounts. We're requesting that members of the Planning Commission and the board who have not currently completed our MFA procedures come visit us in IT to get those procedures done, preferably within the next 2 weeks. Faster is always better, but whenever you get around.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad I didn't have to say all that. All right, so sometime within the next couple of weeks, hopefully quicker, we'll try to visit IT and see what they want us to do. All right, any other items from the Planning Commission or any other items from the public? We go to the board next. Yes, sir. Now. Yeah. All right. If there's no other items,
Second.
Moved and seconded, okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks.
Y'all gonna get up, or y'all just gonna stay there?
I'm gonna sleep. Thank you.
All right, then. Oh, wait a minute, then.
Vodka.
All right, like to call the Board of Supervisors portion of this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. We're missing Ms. Hoffman this evening. She'll be back with us next week. We do have an agenda in front of us. Does anybody have anything to add to the agenda as presented? Mr. Weekly, anything? Mr. Chairman. All right. We're going to do public comment.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Second. Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. We're going to do public comment 4 times. General public comment. Does anybody have any general public comment on anything? Anyone? All right, let's go to the cases. Case number SU-12-23-18. Mr. Cicero Martinez has applied for a special use permit, SUP, to convert an existing structure permitted as an assisted living facility to a 2-family dwelling duplex. The subject 4.2 acre lot is zoned A1 agriculture and in the A1 zoning district. Both as assisted living facility and 2-family dwellings are allowable by special use permit. Constructed in 1974, the structure contains roughly 3,800 square feet of living area above grade with 6 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms, roughly 2,900 square feet of living area below grade with 6 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms. Both the above and below grade living areas contain kitchens, living, and a dining area. If the SUP is approved, the structure would be required to obtain a change of use permit and a new certificate of occupancy from the county's building official. The subject property contains a postal address of 5289 Ridgeview Road, Riva, Virginia, and is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 24-37C. Mr. Webb, anything to add?
I would just highlight the two conditions, that the SUP would run with the land and that the change of use would be filed with the county within the date specified, so they can start that process with the building official.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Webb?
I have one.
Please.
Ligon, is there a reason why it wasn't applied for as a single-family home?
Well, I guess either way, but I think the idea was that there were two separate, the way it was occupied when it was originally purchased. I think it's important to note that, I mean, they were clear when we talked to them that they told them it was a multifamily dwelling. That's what was indicated to them. And, it was an institutional facility, so when you go look at it, it makes sense that you might think that too. But I just think because there's literally two separate families, that was the.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Webb? All right, to the applicant. Anything to add? All right, thank you. All right, any questions for the applicant?
No, sir.
All right, to the public. Any public comment on this case specifically? Anyone? Anyone online? 0 people online. We're right on par. All right, back to the board. What would you all like to do?
I have a comment, Mr.
Please.
Chairman. This, I think, is a situation we're alluding to what Mr. Elliott had said, that's age, regarding precedence. As far as the property is concerned, who lives there and how many people, that's immaterial to my argument. I think there's a better way to deal with this. I think single family would be the best way. They can do what they want. But here's the problem I see. If this is approved, this sets a precedence in A1. Now, I can go home next week, and I have a fairly large farmhouse on zoned A1, and I could easily convert it to a duplex, and I can come back here and say, well, I want a special use permit. John Doe on the other end of the county has a similar situation and says, well, you know what, I need more money, so I'm going to convert my old farmhouse into a duplex, and I need a special use permit. And if the county were to reject those applications, I could honestly see legal recourse against the county. So if we're going to circumvent the county's ability to control housing density partially through A1 zoning, I don't think this is the appropriate way to proceed forward. As I said, these folks, I think there's probably a cleaner way for them to move forward with this that will result in less problems for them and also the county down the road. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I had to say.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Elliott. Like I said, age is
All right, other comments on this?
I agree with the single-family dwelling unit, but on the other hand, I look at it as it's an institutional use, and we're changing that to a duplex. I would not approve a single-family dwelling unit, and I would hope we would have a legal stance in that area. I appreciate Mr. Jewett's comments as well, though. We're both trying to watch out for the county in that area.
All right, other comments?
Nah, well, the only thing I would have to say is I'm gonna try to find ways to create more housing, and whatever it takes, man. I mean, we need more housing so badly. So that's the reason I'm in favor of this.
And the only thing I would say, and I'm not trying to, inappropriately comment, is that it's a little unusual in the sense that it is, I think Dustin may hit on it, as going from a single-family home to a duplex, you're really going from, it's rare, that's why I don't think it really sets a bad precedent, because you're going from an institution, you're actually kind of, to a certain degree, down zoning it. by special use permit, because a nursing facility is a special use permit too. So it's just it's a rare case, and I remember when they subdivided this 3-4 years ago. I don't think, and respectfully, that it would really set a bad precedence for other folks and that say, hey, look, you approve this, you got to make my house duplex now. I don't really think that would. This is a rare case because of the building itself, the way it has been used in the past.
I don't know. I think I've sat here over 10 years now, and then on the planning commission for several years before that. This is the third duplex I've seen. The first one, it was catering to, I think it was school teachers, out on 29. Had bad access on that one. The other one was on 29. I don't know if it ever came to fruition or not, but the man did get a permit on it. This one with the change of use and the two separate living quarters, I think kind of warrants the duplex side. I live in one of those farmhouses. I've got a dog. He's bad enough. I wouldn't want to have other people moving in. It's just, I don't see it as something that's going to rush Madison County. I don't see a flood of these coming in. That's just kind of the way I see this one. What would y'all like to do with this application?
And Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number SU-12-23-18.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
And Ms. Hoffman is absent. Thank y'all. Case number SU-12-23-19, Miss Patricia Kurowski, President of the Board of Directors for the Homeless Animal Rescue Team, Inc., HART, has applied for a special use permit to construct and operate an animal rescue kennel on an A1 agricultural zoned lot. In the A1 zoning district, a kennel is allowed by SUP. The subject lot is 35 acres and contains 2 existing dwellings. The proposed kennel structure would not exceed 10,000 square feet of area under roof and house shelter no more than 50 dogs and 25 cats at any given time. If approved, a temporary kennel would be established utilizing the lot's existing structures or potentially temporary structures in accordance with the Uniform Statewide Building Code. In addition, the SUP would run with the applicant and therefore be non-transferable or assignable. The subject property contains 2 postal addresses, 18 and 310 Old Sparks Road, Culpeper, Virginia, and is identified on Madison County's tax map as 43-5. Mr. Webb?
No really additional comments, just to note the changes to number 2 and number 10 by the Plan Commission. And I, appreciate everyone coming out and, wrong, I put the right one up. But yes, I just appreciate everyone's comments and understand that these are never easy decisions.
Yes, sir. Questions for Mr. Webb? Anyone? Before we go to the applicant, would y'all want to hear from our animal control and shelter manager about what they have to say on this, and then we can go to the applicant, let them respond to anything that has been said? Ms. Dotson, Mr. Cave, would either y'all like to say a couple words or not?
Shelter manager for our local animal shelter. We have worked with HART. I was animal control for 10 years. We worked with HART before. They took some of their dogs that would be there for a while that we just needed extra help with. I reached out to them again, spoke with Patricia. She has actually stepped up to take one of her dogs that have been there since July, that we just have not had any luck adopting. He's great, just no one wants to adopt him. So they're gonna give him another lease. I had questions going into this. One, were they coming in to be competition? And one, would they help us? So after speaking with her, I am confident that they will help us at the local shelter. And I'm confident that by them moving into the county, they're not gonna be competition, they'll actually help us. I'm all for it.
Any questions for Ms. Dodson? Thank you, ma'am. Not until public comment. Mr. Cave?
Good evening. So, I'm looking at the numbers, you have the 25 cats, 50 dogs, we're talking about 15 to 25. The animal shelter houses 35 cats and 25 dogs. So, if approved, I don't think it's unreasonable to decrease that number, see how things go. And location of the kennel, of course, to help with the noise, and fencing to prevent escape. Because that's when animal control is going to be involved, because if we receive a complaint, or loose dog on that road. So, I mean, I get it. A buddy of mine and the chairman, I had 30 hound dogs, and it was 7, and they bark constantly. So that's why I'm really big on the location of the kennel and the preventive escape, because that's when I'm going to get involved.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask,
By all means, please.
Mr. Cave, can you just tell us a little bit more about the numbers, the difference between 50 and 25 on dogs for that location?
I mean, the noise, definitely. We're talking about less numbers, the barks. The decimal, of course, is going to be lower with that amount of dogs. So, of course, lowering it from 50 to 25, I believe will help. Of course, that's
I got
Please.
one question
Yes, sir.
for Greg, too. So what's the footprint of the Madison shelter out there? How many square feet is in that? Approximately?
All right, do some
Oh,
quick
you
math.
want Vamonet?
It's so broken up, I don't have a clue.
All right. Other questions for Mr. Cave? Thank you very much. All right. All right, to the applicant. Anything to add, Ms. Kurowski?
Yes, a couple things. First of all,
Yeah, if you would, please. We've got people that have to transcribe this thing.
okay, so first of all, we keep talking about 10,000 square feet. That was a swag I did before the first meeting that I just looked at, what's my wish list? And when I got the architect, he came down to more like 7,000 square feet, so it will be smaller. The other thing is, can we discuss a compromise between the 50 and the 25? I mean, these seem to be arbitrary numbers, but, maybe 35 is a more reasonable number that we could live with, and that, in the spirit of trying to work together. And we putting, gives us flexibility, and, this will be the maximum. This is not gonna be the everyday number. It will be the maximum.
Yes, ma'am. Questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I've got
Please.
one, Mr. Chairman. So, Ms. Kurowski, I was at the first Development Committee meeting. Did we have 2 of those? Did we have we had 2 Development Committee meetings?
Yeah, we talked about it twice, right?
Talked about it twice in development, then we had 2 or 3 more chances during planning commission workshops. But anyhow, in the first development committee meeting, you initially said, and I wrote it down yesterday, you said the facility would be 6,000 square feet and would house 35 dogs. That's what I wrote down in that development committee meeting that day. 6,035 dogs.
I don't recall ever, maybe you said that we
Right.
would like to keep it down to 35 dogs, but it would,
Well,
I
okay,
don't-
well, you just suggested 35 dogs just a second ago, too,
Yeah,
which
it's a
was
compromise.
right in line with what I'd
Okay,
have
yeah.
written down here. I was like, wow, okay. But anyhow, and I know typically, what this board likes to do, or this county likes to do a lot of times, is give people room. But I would ask you if, when you come back from the site plan, that's the reason I was trying to find out from the Madison shelter what the 3,100 and, yeah, we got 3,100 square feet at the Madison shelter that's doing 25 dogs. So I think 6,000 square foot building would be adequate.
Yeah.
Okay. And,
We'll have built-in indoor playrooms so that we can exercise the dogs without being outside making noise.
mhm.
Anybody else have questions, comments? I normally wouldn't get down this path, but I think we're here, so let's move on with it. I was thinking a little bit different compromise. We've seen it in the past. We did one with the bed and breakfast on restrictions of rooms. Hart, at this point, has said that they're going to be basically in the temporary facility for a longer period of time, longer than I'm sure they would like, especially when it pertains to DEQ stuff. I was thinking, go ahead and approve them for the 15 dogs. And we're going to listen to everybody, so don't let me mislead, but I'm tell everybody where I'm at. I was thinking maybe do 15 dogs in the temporary facility and have them come back and revisit it in a year. And maybe that would be satisfactory, especially in consideration that there is another kennel right up the road, right next to Mr. Kearney's property, that has facilities for 18 dogs, and those are both indoor and outdoor facilities. So I'm confused by that one, and that one definitely, I don't think, does it have a special use permit? Doesn't look like it. So there you go.
I can't account for that one.
Yeah, I found the website. I understand, excuse me, I understand that it's a small operation. Still have to have a permit. Anybody else have anything on this?
Is this common?
Yeah, Bob, why not?
Yeah.
No, I just have a couple of comments to make on not only the application, the essence of the application, but also on the process. First of all, with regard to any noise that this place generates, once this facility is in place and there's any noise of any level, there's nothing anybody can do about it. We don't have a noise ordinance. Folks have talked about hearing guns going off and dogs and whatnot, and there's nothing you can do about it. I lived a quarter of a mile from a private kennel for 17 years, about 15 dogs, and they barked day and night for 17 years. And there was nothing the neighbors could do about it. So as far as putting any conditions on for noise mitigation, I think it's a moot point, because no matter what noise comes out of there, you're not going to have any enforcement mechanism to say you've got to quiet it down or we'll revoke the permit. The other issue I have, and I haven't heard this mentioned at all, but a facility like this that brings in dogs from various geographic locations, what's the probability that it's going to increase the risk of a vector of infectious canine disease being brought into the county? We have this mystery respiratory illness now killing dogs in various parts of the country. So I don't know what kind of mitigation strategies are in place to address that risk, but I think that's something that needs to be considered before we would even proceed on this or any other facility at this point in time. And then the last thing is with the process. This is a recurring problem with our planning and application process. Neighbors are not adequately notified in these instances, and it's not the first time this has happened, and that's something that's got to improve. It's no wonder if I were a neighbor, I'd be really, really upset that I heard about it 2 weeks or a week before it was going to happen. So I think that's something that we need to make a concerted effort to improve. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you.
Thank you. The only one that I did leave out, we did a hearing about it, and it hadn't been 10 years ago, it's been probably about 6, on a noise ordinance. We had people calling us, and every board member had people calling every week, trying to get us to do something about the noise. So we had a public hearing. This room was filled up by every bear hunter and dog owner in Madison County. I will never go back down the noise ordinance path. I've never heard of a bear, what was that, bear alert or something? That's new. But the noise ordinance thing's a no-go in Madison. Anybody else have anything? All right, to the public. Come to the microphone, same deal. Be glad to hear from everybody.
It's the fine print that always gets you, right? So, Ligon, when we had talked before, I mentioned to you, you know, let's say, to limit the number of dogs, right? Or try to. And limit that number. But what bothers me, we're talking about a max of 25 or 35 or 50 or whatever it is. But if you read condition 2, it says dogs and cats under the age of 6 months, or 3 months for cats, shall be required to remain indoors and shall not be considered or counted against the ceiling. So they could have, literally, they wouldn't because they're reputable, 500 dogs in the shelter that are 6 months or younger and not count against the number. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I was actually not being flippant about a public-private partnership. The animal shelter people said, oh, their heart is helping us. And there were dog lovers coming in saying, oh, you know, they do such a great thing. Why not a public-private partnership? Why not have the kennel in that large 241-acre area and expand it and have Hart and their volunteers help the Madison animal control people? Why was that just totally discounted? I don't know. Maybe I don't know the regs. I don't. But thanks.
Yes, sir. Other public comment? Yes, sir, please.
Good evening, Jamie Stump. I am the owner of the property there at, I think it's 43-6. I think I'll need you to check, we are the operators of that kennel.
There you go.
I need you to check on an indefinite special.
Do you
use
have one?
permit.
Do you have one?
That's what I believe I'm operating under. So
Excellent.
We need to
Excellent.
take a
Look,
hard
yes,
look
sir.
at that and double check that before we get that out there in the open.
Sure.
So, you know, that's, and for, you know, as far as, you know, I don't really have any position against what they're trying to do. That's their business. I understand my neighbors do, and I was gonna stay out of this until I was kind of brought in.
Yes, sir.
So,
Absolutely.
Once I got brought into it.
By all
I got
means,
time.
by all means, by all means.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mike Elias again, and I agree. I think Hart should be in Madison with all the help that you guys do. I just think it's in the wrong location. I mean, like Ron said, that it makes sense, and according to the planning, the vision that's set forth in Madison, that we would put it something that size, and you could actually probably be bigger than what you have on that 241 acres on Shelby Road. It just, that makes sense to me. So that's all I wanted to say. And I don't think that the kennel, the way it's, for as big as it is, I don't think it meets the criteria for the special use permit, because it has to meet all the criteria and changing the landscape, and being uniform and in harmony with the area that we're putting it in. Thank you.
Tom Carney, we don't want to be here all night. A couple of points. You know, we've got a corporation that's coming into Madison County. They will not be living at this location. They may have somebody who's running it who's staying there, but the people who have hound dogs, who are shooting their guns, who are making noise, they live here. They're residents here. Okay, that's a huge point. They're bringing in dogs. They bought the property without a purpose. They didn't get it approved. Bringing dogs in. How much does the county charge for replacing dogs? Who knows? $90. All shots, all in. How much does Hart charge? $525. $525 versus $90. Well, it's all if you're on, it's on your website.
All
Okay.
right.
So in any case, if this does proceed with the modifications, it sounds like there's a lot of questionable procedures that have happened about notifying the public. I would honorably ask that a vote be delayed if it is moving forward, so that we can get more input from the rest of the immediate community around the facility. Thank you very much.
I'll just make a comment on the input. We are bound by state law. We can't send the notices out 2 months before. We have a window of no more than 21 days, fewer than 5 days. So I can't send it out a month before, and it's also unusual because we do joint meetings. You know, if we were doing planning commissions 1 month and then going to the board the next month, like, you know, probably 90% of the communities, I mean, I like the joint meetings, don't get me wrong, but the reason it comes up, because we cannot send that notice until in that window. 21 days before, I believe, 5 days before. So that's why you get it before that work session. So I wish it could be a little, you know, but to meet the state code, if I send it a month before, I have, you know, it does not work.
Well, none of us were notified of the October meeting. Ron and I were the only ones that were notified of the second meeting. None of these other neighbors.
I have an affidavit that everybody sent it to. We sent it to more, I think 14 people around there were sent notice. So, I mean, we've met the advertising requirements. I just don't know what else to do unless suggest do separate planning commission and board meetings. That's the only other way to do it, is to do
All
planning
right,
commission
let's-
1 month. But anyway.
All right.
I would just say there's due diligence so everybody gets their input, not just the 6 neighbors who live immediately around the facility.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Other public comment? Other public comment? Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Address. Well, first of all, I just want to also, we're talking about changing what the place looks like. We are building a pole barn. We are going to make it look, the plan was for it to look like the other barns on the property, so it sort of fit in. But now we're putting the sound baffling thing, so you're not going to see it anyway. It will be tucked away behind the White House, so it really is not going to be visible to anybody. So if you think that it's like a warehouse or something, it's going to be tucked in behind the White House with trees all around it. So I don't think we're permitted to have our thing in a county or the state, whatever. We're not a animal shelter, and we're helping beyond just the county. We are helping the county also, but beyond. What's that? Oh, yeah, as for the sickness of the animals, they have health certificates. We charge $525 for a puppy and $475 for an adult dog because we take good care of them. They have health certificates before they leave the shelters, and they're not going to be mingling with the public dogs. They're going to be in our facility, in and out of vans going to their foster homes or to their forever homes. So, and we pay for the spays and neuters. We pay for heartworm treatment. We pay for the little kitty that was run over at the Wegmans shopping center and paid, it was like $2,000 to have hip surgery on that kitten. So the reason we charge that much is because we do all of that.
The county does all the same things.
We take them from counties all the time because they don't have the budget. They say, please take this poor kitty in the cage. He's got his jaw hanging off and we can't do anything except euthanize him. So I don't know, is every county is the same way? A lot of Virginia does not have the funding, and we step in where the county can't do it. So please don't, you know, and the county is supported by tax dollars, we're not. So we also have more stringent criteria on who we adopt to. The county's pretty much, there's very, you know, minimal criteria of who they give the dogs to. So we do go above and beyond to make sure, and we guarantee them for life. So if they get adopted and then Junior moves out and doesn't want the dog anymore, we take the dog back. If the people die, we ask them, please put in your will, if something happens to you, the dog or cat comes back to us. So we are one of the good ones. We've never said, no, we can't take that dog back. Now, if we have a vicious biting pit bull, 100-pound dog who bit a child, we will euthanize it. We're not putting dangerous dogs. We go way overboard on making sure that we have a safe, secure facility. We have it set up so there's a barn door, so we can open the barn door, drive our vans in, close the door, and then load dogs up, and do the opposite coming out. So we're not going to leave anything to chance on dogs getting free. I think that's it.
Mr. Wright,
Yes,
please.
sir, thank you. One suggestion has been possibly doing a 1-year temporary permit. What are your thoughts on that?
That can be problematic for us because So currently, Mary Lou, she does take care of some dogs for us in another place that she doesn't own. She's losing that place. We're trying to replace her capacity of at least replace her capacity of 35 dogs. So we're going to be paying for boarding for that year while we're building the kennel to offset the shortage of space. So it really be a big financial burden for us to have to wait another year to see if we can get this approval.
Also, let me just add, it doesn't make sense if we're waiting for the county to approve it. We can't start building. This facility could cost us $1 million. We can't start doing that, and then the county will say, sorry, you can't build it. And we've already started it. Tricia had already mentioned it's $100,000 for the design, for the architect and the civil engineer.
And the builder,
So,
yeah.
So
The plan is for it to be shovel-ready in the spring, pending whatever building permits we need. So, I know that could take months to get that done. I don't know. But, so I think with 2 years, we should be able to get it. But if we are waiting to get approval, like I said, we bought the property without approval. I did see that a kennel is allowed in A1 with special use permit. But we can't start spending $100,000 and then come back and say, no, you can't build it, so.
Understood.
Well, I just had a comment, but I mean, one option, and again, just going to flush this out, is just to do the 1 year, just wait on spending the money, get a year under your belt as a temporary facility, just do another public hearing in accordance to the Code of Virginia, and you have a 1 year, at least as a temporary track record. I mean, just a suggestion. So, that you could just put on the shelf for a year as far as going out and doing your engineering work. And then, if you're back in a year, you've done a great job, your 15 dogs has worked nicely. Of course, you get your permits while you're temporary. That isn't, that could be an option. That way it kind of holds you for a year, but you also get a year to sort of operate. And I understand, because we did talk about this. I mean, we did have this conversation. This was not something and it was just explained to me that just their timing, where they need to move this, they really, you really didn't really have the appetite to wait that year. But that just could be an option.
It's the cost. It's going to cost us for boarding the dogs to at least maintain our current capacity. You'll be dropping our capacity in half and having us pay market value to board those dogs. So that it's a significant expense. And meanwhile, we bought this property with this purpose. If we're not going to be able to build it, pushing it out another year, we just need to move forward. We have the engineering team all ready to go. Contracts in my inbox ready to sign it. Of course, I'm not signing any of that till we get approval. The same thing with the temporary kennel. I got a meeting on Monday with the consultants to make sure we build it properly with as much sound baffling as we can. And, I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but there's I've never been standing out there without hearing dogs bark, so this is not changing the dynamic of the neighborhood. Hunting dogs, hound dogs are the loudest dogs you're going to find out there. We don't have a lot of those in our kennel, but, I mean, that is, and the 18 or 16 hunting dogs, those are not indoor, they're indoor, outdoor, they're not in a closed sound conditioned room overnight. So overnight, you're not gonna have that problem. And we do have the ability to have windows of time when the dogs will be in and out. So we can be pretty flexible because we do have those guillotine doors so we can lock them in. And so if there is sound problems, we'll work with Ligon and we will make it right. I mean, we are very reputable and we want to be good neighbors.
All right. A question has come up. I guess I'll just ask you. Is there a reason related to the dogs that Mary Lou is losing where she's at currently?
No, it's just the landlord is a jerk and
Right.
doubling her rent.
All right, there you go. That was tactful as I do that. All right, other public comment.
I have one more question
Please,
for
go.
Ms. Growski. Jim's question, Mr. Jewett's question there about the animals, and you said that they have health certificates going out.
No,
I
coming
think-
in.
Huh?
Coming in, they have health certificates from the shelters. we're transporting them, so we.
Okay, so they have health certificates when you pick them up and
Yes,
bring?
they.
Okay.
They're seen by vets. And a lot of times, because we can get the vetting cheaper in the rural areas, we'll get them vetted before they even come to us. So we'll pay the local vets to process them and then bring them to us.
Okay, I misunderstood.
All right, other questions while we've got her up on the podium? All right, other public comment. Pete,
Yes, if I may, Mr.
turn your microphone on, please.
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just make a comment. I sat here and read number 11 after Mr. Jewett said what he said, and I don't think number 11 needs to even be in there because it's not enforceable.
That's zero teeth, yeah.
In the special use permit process, we don't have a sound ordinance, but we basically in the number 11, we are allowed, in the latitude is to create something. We have created something here. If we get, we were creating specifically for this special use permit. We didn't put decibel numbers, but I think if we have dogs out there barking at 7 in the morning and it sounds like they're chasing a truck, just a loud barking, that we could say this is unreasonable. And we want you to shut this down. If it happens, I think we have a very loud, that's why we were, and we can take that evidence to the Board of Zoning Appeals. As zoning administrator, this has been, they're barking at 7 o'clock, they're barking, I've had evidence, I've got recordings. We are demanding that, as a zoning administrator, you not let those dogs out till 9 o'clock in the morning, and you take them in at 1. Take that, they can appeal that, and that's why we kind of built that process in.
All right.
I have one more comment. I mean, there's all
All
about
right.
puppies and they're inside the building, so that doesn't affect the neighbors at all. So if we have 30 puppies that are 8 weeks old, they're not gonna be, you're not gonna hear them outside, and they'll just be in a room just like they're in your living room.
All right. All right, other public comment. Mr. Elias, you want to go again? Would you? You got to, I got to. Sorry.
If the kennel was relocated over on the 241 acres, when could they start building that? When could they move on it? I mean, it's a serious question.
There.
Immediately?
Probably not.
6 months?
Probably not. That's county land.
Okay,
It's also the home of where the land transfer station is.
right.
Substantial portion of that is what's the term for a covered up,
It's a closed landfill that's under DEQ permit that is heavily regulated. So
There's
Okay,
also-
so that's not an even
there's also a shooting range out there and a large storage facility out there.
Right.
And there are neighbors out there. And they have told us multiple times, even though the shooting range has been there for a long time, strictly for the sheriff's department, that they don't particularly care for that. That one's probably far-fetched. And then I'm sure there's also a lot of state permitting that goes involved between public-private partnerships, especially pertaining to animals. Anything else, Mr. Elias?
That was it. I just agree with their philosophy on animals. It's in the wrong spot. I mean, there's got to be a better place for them, and where they could get that done quicker, and get a facility that actually works for the county and for wherever we're going to locate it, that's all.
Thank you.
That's it.
Other public comment? Yes, sir.
It sounds to me like that they got a donation for somebody to build a 50-dog facility here, and they're obliged by that with their, the donor restrictions. And that the planning committee has recommended a smaller amount that there's some resistance to. I agree 100% with the 1 year. I'm the closest owner, and I would say the 1 year thing is good, but to test it, I can tell you we'll be calling saying your dog's barking. Okay, I can tell you that. So if she can't reduce it, then it should just be off the table.
All right. And your name one more time, I apologize.
Tommy Kearney.
Kearney, yes, thank you.
Rare Air Farm.
Yes, sir.
Try to eat our blueberries.
I see. Other public comment? Anybody else? All right, back to the board. Questions, thoughts, comments? What would y'all like to do here?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please, by all means. Yes, sir.
I know that Mr. Wright had referenced, as well to the applicant, it may be a 1 year. Article 14-3 in the zoning ordinance
specifically to special use permits, if they are to be considered. That is your purview. Options would be indefinite, temporary 2-year, temporary 5-year. Certainly, a special use permit, you impose conditions, so that doesn't mean that 1 year is not an option. I'm just letting you know what Article 14-3 says.
Thank you. I don't know. The only reason I proposed doing a year as a plan, and I understand that costs money, understand that in every way, is we've seen that in the past, and they've built a rapport with neighbors over a contentious issue, and it's come out where it's been a much better relationship than before. Trying to come to some type of compromise on this. What other comments do we have, or which way y'all want to go?
Well, let's see, Mr. Chairman, I think, I hope that everybody in the room has a good understanding of what this operation is about. This facility is not a kennel in the strict sense of the word. It's more of just a holding facility for animals awaiting a foster home or adoption. So I think another condition that I'd like to see added is that it will not be used, I don't know how to put this exactly, will not be used for any kind of overnight boarding. It won't be a public boarding house for, for overnighting. What would be the term for that, Ligon? For fee or not for fee? It's just,
Yeah, I just think,
I can't board my dog there for
yeah, I
a
mean,
week.
it's not what they do.
That's
so,
not what they do.
But
But you look in the definitions, and it's in the definitions by kennel, so that would be.
I say
just
no
like-
overnight boarding.
Just like striking any other use out of by right, there's people that come in and they agree that they will strike a use from it.
No overnight boarding of non-rescue animals.
Yeah. Now, I've already talked about the facility. I would like to reduce it to 6,000 square feet.
I think 7,000 is what the, because we want to have some indoor play areas.
Or 7,
No,
okay.
yeah, definitely not 10,000, that was just a swag lady myself.
Yeah, and I have checked Hart's 990 tax returns and their financials. It's apparent that this organization is well-funded, a professional organization, and I fully believe that they've been in business since 1990, I think it is, yeah. And so I believe that they'll be respectful of the neighbors and will adhere to the extensive list of conditions that we have put in this application package. So I have said for years in my, during my life that a society is known for how they treat animals. So this morning I went on there, I wonder where I got that. Well, it was from Gandhi. He said, the greatest of a nation is its moral progress, and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. And the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members, which are all of us. And Billy Graham says the Bible's emphasis is on good treatment of animals and not just the forbidding of cruel treatment. So I was just kind of interested. I've said that my whole life, but I didn't know where it was coming from. So with the things that are in place right now, I really have no problem with passing this with the addition of these conditions that we've talked about.
The proposed conditions based on the recommendation of the Planning Commission?
Yeah, plus the one that I want to change it.
No boarding and 7,000.
No boarding and 7,000.
And the Planning Commission's recommendation was number 2, going from 50 to 25 dogs total. And then the temporary facility is number 10, 15 dogs with sound baffling, and a 6-foot fence with the fabric. That's, am I missing anything?
I'll just read what I think.
Please.
Try to take good notes.
By all means.
Number two, is it 25? That was what the recommended, that's the big number there. Now, the reason we said that the younger animals are 6 months or 3 months of age, and this was from talking to Patricia, is that those are kind of different. They move in and out very rapidly. Is that sort of correct? So puppies, I mean, you can move, so number two, if you want to move, because I thought that was a good point, about the unlimited. But we're saying the ones that are, the dogs and cats under 6 months of age and 3 months of age respectively. So the conversation on number two was that the younger animals, the puppies and the kittens move in and out very quickly. So that's why they'll stay inside and be sort of unlimited. Now, you can take that out, but, I mean, that was the logic behind that. So any thoughts on that?
I'll have any thoughts on that one? All right.
Okay. Then the next one is the 4 permanent criminal facility. We had 10,000. Do you want 6,000 or 7,000? I mean, they said 7, you said 6. We'll say 6,500.
Sounds like 7's where they're at.
Okay, so 7, so that would be, so number 2, again, is the decision to stay at 25 or go to 35 or what it may be. 4, 7,000 square feet facilities max. Under 10, the addition by the Plan Commission was the temporary kennel facility shall not exceed 15 dogs, and a minimum 6-foot fence shall be installed around the temporary facility with an OPEC sound baffling material. That would be added to number 10. And then number 12, I'm sorry, number 12, we didn't do that. So we're just saying the temporary, and we can look at if when the permanent comes, we could do the site plan, which they're planning to do is the fence around the whole thing. So 2, the decision point is the number. 4, if you're comfortable at 7,000. And then 10, just adding the temporary would have the fence. And of course, they have to get a building permits and all that for the temporary.
And where are you gonna put overnight boarding?
Okay, we'll just add, thank you, we'll just add a number 14. That will simply say, there shall be no overnight boarding of non-rescue animals. And that's cats, that's every animals. So to me, that covers.
All right, everybody got the conditions? Good. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number SU-12-23-19 with the conditions as modified.
And the number of animals, if I may just ask you, the number of animals would be 25?
25.
Okay.
That's dogs to be specific.
That's
Dogs.
dogs, okay. 7,000 square facility.
Number 4 is 7,000. The motion is, as I understand it, including the 4 different amended items, 25 dogs total is number 2. Number 4 going to 7,000 square feet. Number 10 is 15 animals in the temporary with a fence and sound baffling. And then number 14 will now be no overnight boarding. Is that your motion, Mr. Yell?
Yes, sir.
For non-rescue.
For non-rescue. All right, non-rescue, got it.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask a question.
Please, well, let's get a second. Is there a second? All right. Motion, yep. Motion dies on the lack of a second. What would you like, where would you like to go?
Want to hear what Hannah has to
Yeah,
say
go
now?
ahead, Hannah. Now we're back to 0.
It's a moot point. I was just gonna ask if the 25 was based on similar numbers at the Madison County shelter and statements Mr. Cave, but we've been overtaken by events.
Yes, sir. All right. First motion dies. What would you like to do? I do think we are required to take action. Is that correct or not?
We are required to take action.
There you go.
I mean, you could table it.
We,
I mean,
those are the three.
and you could
the
table
three
it.
options
I mean,
are
we-
yes, no, or table.
We are missing a member.
There you go.
I think the only thing I do, if you do table it, is to just give a date. I mean, when we meet, that you would take it off the table and discuss it. I mean, we'd bring another board member here. That probably would be useful. 2-2 would mean that the motion just doesn't pass. It just doesn't, so if you don't have a second on that motion, someone
That
could.
motion's dead.
Right.
Is there another motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move to reject case number SU-12-23-19.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. That means the motion does die. That is correct, isn't it?
Right.
It does
Motion
not
did not
pass.
pass.
That's correct. So in turn, never seen this before, in turn, the application has failed, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say it has not passed. I think we probably have to research if that means is that kind of de facto tabling if it doesn't pass? I don't know. I would say it just doesn't pass.
Yeah,
For sure, it doesn't pass,
And-
but
I'd ask for some time on that one.
All right.
Want me to do that right
Would-
now, or?
Would this,
Just,
let's, why don't we do this? Why don't we take 5 minutes real quick, and we'll get some answers. There you go. It does, it fails.
that's what I say it does too.
It definitely fails.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a bit, not a bit, that's democracy.
Yeah, man. That's fine. It is.
I had to say something.
That's what I was thinking. I was going to table. What do you think?
What's that?
Why don't you come back? Yeah. Yeah, because.
That's all we
What started last, well, it started last
Capture all addresses within a 2-mile area. And if the notice code says you have to notify all the citizens. And I think we went beyond that.
Or you don't read it all, right?
I know. Yeah. Costly, wouldn't it? I know, yeah. Yeah, see, when I was in the planning commission, we spent all the Right, I didn't get it. Yeah, I didn't know. And I tell them, well, it was in the paper, I don't get the paper. Yeah, you would too.
But no, you gotta check. You gotta check. I wonder, yeah, you gotta check. You gotta find out.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I do that, I'll call something back and I go down to the store, and all you gotta do is go down to the store, you tell them that, and those boys, it's gonna go all over the place. So, yeah, it's, gotta go by at least, the minimum by the code. right?
Well,
Which is adjacent.
Code is, like elect code and electrical, it's the middle, right? You know, you can put outlets 12 foot apart, but you can put them 26 inch apart if you want to. Now, where's that have to be?
Right. Yep.
I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah.
Just another way to better serve.
Pete was on the board a long time ago. Were you here? You weren't
I
here
was
then,
not,
right?
sir, I've only been here 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah, he's served. Yeah.
Is this your citizen?
Yeah, well, will be my second coming up. I'm still in the first term.
You have to be re-sworn in?
Yeah, on the 13th. Yeah. Had to do all the stuff just as if I'd never been on here. So, what I should have.
And I don't know how it works. I could have said, can I second your motion even if I'm not?
Yes, absolutely. I've done that
That
before,
was
just
any way
to.
disrespectful, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, just to get it to discussion. I've seconded stuff before, just to get it to discussion.
Yeah,
And
I
then
wasn't
turn
aware.
around and vote
I
against it.
thought I wasn't allowed to second it. I wasn't gonna vote.
Nah, you weren't good.
Well, I'm
But
sorry. I
it's
didn't
no
know.
different than just letting it die, same thing. Unless you want to trigger more discussion. By seconding, you can't discuss anything until you second it. Yeah.
Man, I hope that makes
I know. Well, it's just like, Judge is gonna come on the board in January. He didn't have a special use permit for that glamping stuff. And then when he found out he needed one, he came, we were meeting in the fire hall then, because this was under construction. He goes, oh, man, I'm here to fess up. I don't have a special use permit.
And all you do is help somebody.
Yeah. And you see how people don't know what the process is at all.
They don't have a clue. And to be honest, I mean, the big saying when I worked in town board is compliance by education. People don't know. So they will comply most of the time if you just make them aware of the
Yeah.
rules.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Yep.
you still have your, what are your dogs called?
A Tibetan Mastiff.
Tibetan.
Yeah.
So that's your Tibetan Mastiff.
It's the best, well, I had to put one down.
Oh,
And we've got some men that picked out this golden doodle. He's wild. He's still young though, but he's a good dog. He's real smart. But he's strong. She thought we were downsizing, but he weighs 70 pounds and is strong as an ox. Walter's 145 pounds. But my neighbors, there's a rental house tucked up underneath the mountain. Where you guys were fixing that light on the board, it's tucked up in the mountain straight towards Old Rag. And on a given Sunday morning, I can hear voices on that deck. That's a little over a mile. I can't tell what they're saying, but I hear their voices. And then all my neighbors will go, see, a Tibetan Mastiff, they bark. He'll go outside 3 o'clock in the morning and bark for about 20 minutes to let everything else know that he's there. He's not barking at something, he's just barking. Right. And my neighbors are, well, we heard Walter this morning. I went, I'm sorry. They go, well, that's,
And Mr. Elias's comment to me was, I don't want this, but I give you my word at the end of it, however it falls, I will give you an
yeah.
Thank you.
So I've met Mike Elias years ago. He's a good friend of Sticks. Stick Dooley, right? He used, and I've used TKC for stuff. So you know he's a good guy, great guy.
Yeah, I've never done anything.
Yeah.
All right.
It died, right?
I'm gonna ask y'all, and we can talk about it.
All right. Okay.
All right. like to call the board back to order. Thank you. This never happened before. Never seen this one. I'm inclined to think that the application is denied. I'm asking from the board whether we can table this and get a ruling with clarification from our attorney, Mr. Wright, and Jonathan, Mr. Weekly, and see what they have to say on Tuesday. Is that work for everybody, or is that doesn't work? I think that's the best we can come up with in about 5 minutes.
So basically, we would be extending this meeting until Tuesday. So we would, on Tuesday, we would end this meeting and then go into the next one? Maybe?
Yes, I mean, my inclination is that because the motion didn't, or the special use permit didn't carry, or that the special use permit application has not been passed, then it fails.
Correct.
That is what my gut reaction is.
Correct.
In brief.
Agreed.
Research on this is shown, but I think it's only fair to the applicant to make sure we have the right answer.
Gentlemen, what do you think? I'm inclined to agree with Mr. Wright, is that it does fail. I don't think it's proper to have another vote on it, but I do think having clarification from the legal side, and we are meeting this upcoming Tuesday, is kind of the best case in this pretty poor scenario.
All right, so, yeah, I agree. I mean, I spent 9 years on the planning commission, and let's see, we had that happen once, and then, but it was, at that point, it was just a recommendation. We failed to recommend to the board to approve it, so therefore, the recommendation obviously was to disapprove it, the board to disapprove it. So I agree the same thing holds here. I think the motion failed. So I would just ask council to get back to us Tuesday to confirm that, and we're done. That's what I
Does
say.
that work?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I'm basing that off of Virginia Code Section 15.2-1420.
Right.
I think it says when a majority of it hasn't passed, then
The motion fails.
motion fails.
Yeah, and it's not just the motion, but it's also the application that the
application
motion is based upon. I agree with you. All right, gentlemen, it's been irregular. We're good on table, or not tabling, but waiting on a conclusion on Tuesday. Does that sound right?
Confirmation, I think.
All right, confirmation,
Okay.
thank you. Good Lord. All right, anything else on this? General public comment?
Thank you very much for listening to all of us and taking everybody's point into consideration.
Other public comment? All right, what would you all like to do?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you all.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he can second just to get us to discussion, yeah. Yeah, oh, hell yeah.